The Project Gutenberg ebook of Sonnets and Madrigals of Michelangelo Buonarroti. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. Title: Sonnets and Madrigals of Michelangelo Buonarroti. Author: Michelangelo Buonarroti. Translator: William Wells Newell. Release date: March 6, 2024. Ebook number 73109. Language: English. Original publication: Cambridge, Houghton Mifflin and Company, 1900. Credits: Charlene Taylor, A. Marshall and the online distributed proofreading team at https://www.pgdp.net. This file was produced from images generously made available by the Internet Archive/American Libraries. Start of the Project Gutenberg ebook. Sonnets and Madrigals of Michelangelo Buonarroti. Transcribers note: some minor changes to the text are noted at the end of the book. Sonnets and Madrigals of Michelangelo Buonarroti. Sonnets and Madrigals of Michelangelo Buonarroti, rendered into English verse by William Wells Newell with Italian text. Introduction and notes. Houghton Mifflin and Company, MDCCCC. Copyright 1900 by William Wells Newell. All rights reserved. Contents: Michelangelo as poet, page I. Sonnets 1, epigrams 26, madrigals 28, notes 59, index of first lines 105. Michelangelo as poet, pg 3. Michelangelo as poet. Michelangelo, who considered himself as primarily sculptor, afterwards painter, disclaimed the character of poet by profession. He was nevertheless prolific in verse. The pieces which survive, in number more than 200, probably represent only a small part of his activity in this direction. These compositions are not to be considered merely as the amusement of leisure, the byplay of fancy. They represent continued meditation, frequent reworking, careful balancing of words. He worked on a sonnet or a madrigal in the same manner as on a statue, conceived with ardent imagination, undertaken with creative energy, pursued under the pressure of a superabundance of ideas, occasionally abandoned in dissatisfaction, but at other times elaborated to that final excellence which exceeds as well as includes all merits of the sketch, and, as he himself said, constitutes a rebirth of the idea into the realm of eternity. In the sculptor's time, the custom of literary society allowed and encouraged interchange of verses. If the repute of the writer or the attraction of the rhymes commanded interest, these might be copied, reach an expanding circle, and achieve celebrity. In such manner, partly through the agency of Michelangelo himself, the sonnets of Vittoria Colonna came into circulation, and obtained an acceptance, ending in a printed edition. But the artist did not thus arrange his own rhymes, does not appear even to have kept copies, written on stray leaves, included in letters. They remained as loose memoranda, or were suffered altogether to disappear. The fame of the author secured attention for anything to which he chose to set his hand. The verses were copied and collected, and even gathered into the form of books. One such manuscript gleaning he revised with his own hand. The sonnets became known, the songs were set to music, and the recognition of their merit induced a contemporary author, in the 71st year of the poet's life, to deliver before the Florentine Academy a lecture on a single sonnet. Diffusion through the printing press, however, the poems did not attain. Not until 60 years after the death of their author did a grandnephew, also called Michelangelo Buonarroti, edit the verse of his kinsman. In this task he had regard to supposed literary proprieties, conventionalizing the language and sentiment of lines which seemed harsh or impolite, supplying endings for incomplete compositions, and in general doing his best to deprive the verse of an originality which the age was not inclined to tolerate. The recast was accepted as authentic, and in this mutilated form the poetry remained accessible. Fortunately the originals survived, partly in the handwriting of the author, and in 1863 were edited by Guasti. The publication added to the repute of the compositions, and the sonnets especially have become endeared to many English readers. The long neglect of Michelangelo's poetry was owing to the intellectual deficiencies of the succeeding generation. In spite of the partial approbation of his contemporaries, it is likely that these were not much more appreciative, and that their approval was rendered rather to the fame of the maker than to the merits of the work. The complication of sixth thought, frequently requiring to be thought out word for word, demanded a mental effort beyond the capacity of literati whose ideal was the simplicity and triviality of Petrarchian imitators. Varchi assuredly had no genuine comprehension of the sonnet to which he devoted 3 hours of his auditor's patience. Berni, who affirmed that Michelangelo wrote things, while other authors used words, to judge by his own compositions could scarce have been more sensible of the artist's emotional depth. The sculptor, who bitterly expressed his consciousness that for the highest elements of his genius his world had no eyes, must have felt a similar lack of sympathy with his poetical conceptions. Here he stood on less safe ground, unacquainted with classic literature, unable correctly to write a Latin phrase. He must have known, to use his own metaphor, that while he himself might value plain homespun, the multitude admired the stuffs of silk and gold that went to the making of a tailor's man. It is likely that the resulting intellectual loneliness assumed the form of modesty, and that Michelangelo took small pains to preserve his poetry because he set on it no great value. 7. The verse, essentially lyric, owed its inspiration to experience. A complete record would have constituted a biography more intimate than any other. But such memorial does not exist. Of early productions few survive. The extant poems, for the most part, appear to have been composed after the 60th year of their author. The series begins with a sonnet written in 1506, when Michelangelo was 31 years of age. The sculptor had been called to Rome by Pope Julius, who conceived that the only way to ensure an adequately magnificent mausoleum was to prepare it during his own lifetime. A splendid design was made for the monument destined to prove the embarrassment of Michelangelo's career, but the Pope was persuaded that it was not worth while to waste his means in marbles, and in the spring of 1506 the artist fled to Florence. In that city he may have penned the sonnet in which Julius is blamed for giving ear to the voice of echo, misreporting calumniators, instead of holding the balance even and the sword erect, in the character of a sculptor justice. The writer adds a bitter complaint of the injustice of fate, which sends merit to pluck the fruit of a withered bough. Another sonnet of the period seems to have been written in Rome. The subscription reads, "Your Michelangelo, in Turkey." The piece contains an indictment against the papal court, at that time occupied with plans for military advancement, where the Eucharistic cup is changed into helmet, and cross into lance. For safety's sake, let Christ keep aloof from a city where his blood would be sold dropwise. Work there is none, and the Medusa-like Pope turns the artist to stone. If poverty is beloved by heaven, the servants of heaven, under the opposite banner, are doing their best to destroy that other life. In 1509, a sonnet addressed to Giovanni of Pistoia describes the sufferings endured in executing the frescoes of the Sistine Chapel. We are shown Michelangelo bent double on his platform, the paint oozing on his face, his eyes blurred and squinting, his fancy occupied with conjecture of the effect produced on spectators standing below. Allusion is made to hostile critics. The writer bids his friend maintain the honor of one who does not profess to be a painter. While looking upward to the vault retained in the memory of many persons as the most holy spot in Europe, it is well to recollect the sufferings of the artist, who in an unaccustomed field of labor achieved a triumph such as no other decorator has obtained. A fourth sonnet, addressed to the same Giovanni, reveals the flaming irritability of a temper prone to exaggerate slights, especially from a Pistoian, presumably insensible to the preeminence of Florence, that precious joy. With this group can be certainly classed only one sonnet of a different character, No XX. This was penned on a letter of December, 1507, addressed to Michelangelo at Bologna, where he was then leading a miserable life, engaged on the statue of Julius. This work, on which he wasted 3 years, was finally melted into a cannon, in order that the enemies of the Pope might fire at the latter by means of his own likeness. The verse is a spontaneous and passionate outburst of admiration for a beautiful girl. With this piece might be associated 2 or 3 undated compositions of similar nature, which serve to show the error of the supposition that the artist was insensible to feminine attractions. It may be affirmed that the reverse was the case, and that the thoughtful temper of the extant poetry X is due solely to the sobering influences of time. The verse which might have exhibited the transition from early to later manhood has not been preserved. During 20 years survive no compositions of which the date is assured. Subsequently to that time, assistance is derived from the fortunate accident that several of the sonnets were written on dated letters. It is true that this indication is far from furnishing secure testimony. Even at the present day, when paper is so easily obtained, I have known a writer of rhyme who was in the habit of using the backs of old letters. That Michelangelo sometimes did the same thing appears to be demonstrated by the existence of a sonnet, No L, which, though written on the back of a letter of 1532, professes to be composed in extreme old age. The evidence, therefore, is of value only when supported by the character of the piece. Nor is internal testimony entirely to be depended on. It is to be remembered that all makers of verse remodel former work, complete imperfect essays, put into form reminiscences which essentially belong to an earlier stage of feeling. Attempts to classify the productions must follow a subjective opinion, very apt to err. Nevertheless, something may be accomplished in this direction. The nephew states that 2 sonnets, NOSXXIV and XXV, were found on a leaf containing a memorandum of 1529. Extant is another sonnet, certainly written on a page having an entry of that year. These 3 sonnets seem to breathe the same atmosphere. The emotion is sustained by a direct impulse, the verse is apparently inspired by a sentiment too lyric to be unhappy, the employment of theologic metaphor and Platonic fancy is still subsidiary to emotion. Allowing for the imaginative indulgence of feeling common to lyrical poets, it seems nevertheless possible to perceive a basis of personal experience. With these pieces may be associated a number of sonnets and madrigals, among the most beautiful productions of the author, which may conjecturally be assigned to the period before his permanent Roman residence, or at any rate may be supposed to represent the impressions of such time. As compared with the work which may with confidence be dated as produced within the ensuing decade, these correspond to an earlier manner. Wanting the 12 direct and impetuous passion of the few youthful verses, they nevertheless show a spiritual conception of sexual attachment, not yet resolved into religious aspiration. They suggest that the inflammable and gentle-hearted artist passed through a series of inclinations, none of which terminated in a permanent alliance. At the end of 1534, near his 60th year, Michelangelo came to live in Rome, and to that city, 3 years later, Vittoria Colonna came for a long visit, in the 12th year of her widowhood, and the 47th of her life. An acquaintance may have been established in the course of previous years, when the lady visited Rome, or possibly even at a prior time. Whatever was the date of the first encounter, Allusions in the poem seem to imply that the meeting produced a deep impression on the mind of the artist. Madrigals live, lzi. At all events, the relations of the two grew into a friendship, hardly to be termed intimacy. Only a very few of the poems are known to have been addressed to Vittoria, but the veiled references of several pieces, and the tone of the poetry, appear to justify the opinion that admiration for this 13th friend was the important influence that affected the character of the verse written during the 10 years before her death in 1547. In Rome, the Marchioness of Pescara made her home in the convent of San Silvestro, where she reigned as queen of an intelligent circle. A charming and welcome glimpse of this society is furnished by Francis of Holland, who professes to relate 3 conversations, held on as many Sunday mornings, in which the sculptor took a chief part. It is not difficult to imagine the calmness and coolness of the place, the serious and placid beauty of the celebrated lady, the figure of Michelangelo, the innocent devices by which the sympathetic Vittoria contrived to adduce his vehement outbursts on artistic questions, the devout listening of the stranger, hanging on the chief artist of Italy with the attention of a reporter who means to put all into a book. So far as the conversation represents a symposium on matters of art, no doubt the account is to be taken as in good measure the method adopted by Francis to put before the world his own ideas, but among the remarks are many so consonant to the character of the sculptor that it is impossible to doubt the essential correctness of the narration. 14 In the language of Michelangelo speaks haughty reserve, the consciousness of superiority, accompanied by a sense that his most precious qualities exceeded the comprehension of a world which rendered credit less to the real man than to the fashionable artist, and whose attention expressed not so much gratitude for illumination as desire of becoming associated with what society held in respect. All students who have had occasion to concern themselves with the biography of Vittoria Colonna have become impressed with the excellence of her character. After the loss of a husband to whom she had been united in extreme youth, she declared her intention of forming no new ties, and it must have been an exceptional purity which the censorious and corrupt world could associate with no breath of scandal. She had been accounted the most beautiful woman in Italy, of that golden-haired and broad-browed type recognized as favorite, but her intelligence, rather than personal attractions or social position, had made her seclusion in Ischia a place of pilgrimage for men of letters. The attraction she possessed for the lonely, reserved, and proud artist is a testimony that to her belonged especially the inexplicable attraction 15 of a sympathetic nature. Such disposition is a sufficient explanation of her devotion to the memory of a husband who appears to have been essentially a condottiere of the time, a soldier who made personal interest his chief consideration. She may also be credited with a sound judgment and pure ethical purpose in the practical affairs of life. Yet to allow that Vittoria Colonna was good and lovable does not make it necessary to worship her as a 10th muse, according to the partial judgment of her contemporaries. Unfortunately, time has spared her verses, respecting which may be repeated advice bestowed by Mrs. Browning in regard to another female author, by no means to indulge in the perusal, inasmuch as they seem to disprove the presence of a talent which she nevertheless probably possessed. In the case commented on by the modern writer, the genius absent in the books is revealed in the correspondence, but epistolary composition was not the forte of the Marchioness of Pescara, whose communications, regarded as pabulum for a hungry heart, are as jejune as can be conceived. Neither is she to be credited with originality in her attitude toward political or religious problems. It does 16 not appear that she quarreled with the principles of the polite banditti of her own family, nor was she able to attain even an elementary notion of Italian patriotism. She has been set down as a reformer in religion, but such tendency went no further than a sincere affection toward the person of the founder of Christianity, a piety in no way inconsistent with ritual devotion. When it came to the dividing of the ways, she had no thought other than to follow the beaten track. nor in the world of ideas did she possess greater independence. With all her esteem for Michelangelo as artist and man, it is not likely that she was able to estimate the sources of his supremacy, any more than to foresee a time when her name would have interest for the world only as associated with that of the sculptor. It may be believed that a mind capable of taking pleasure in the commonplaces of her rhyme could never have appreciated the essential merits of the mystic verse which she inspired. Here, also, Michelangelo was destined to remain uncomprehended. Vittoria presented him with her own poems, neatly written out and bound, but never seems to have taken the pains to gather those of the artist. Intellectually, therefore 17 her limitations were many, but she was endowed with qualities more attractive, a gentle sympathy, a noble kindness, a person and expression representative of that ideal excellence which the sculptor could appreciate only as embodied in human form. While earlier writers of biography were inclined to exaggerate the effect on Michelangelo of his acquaintance with Vittoria Colonna, later authors, as I think, have fallen into the opposite error. To Vittoria, indeed, whose thoughts, when not taken up with devotional exercises, were occupied with the affairs of her family or of the church, such amity could occupy only a subordinate place. One of her letters to Michelangelo may be taken as a polite repression of excessive interest. But on the other side, the poetry of the artist is a clear, almost a painful expression of his own state of mind. We are shown, in the mirror of his own verse, a sensitive, self-contained, solitary nature, aware that he is out of place in a world for which he lacks essential graces and in which he is respected for his least worthy qualities. That under such circumstances he should value the kindness of the only woman with whom he could intelligently converse, that he should feel the attraction of eyes from which seemed to descend starry influences, that he should suffer from the sense of inadequacy and transitoriness, from the difference of fortune and the lapse of years, the contrasts of imagination and possibility, was only, as he would have said, to manifest attribute in act, to suffer the natural pain incident to sensitive character. In the most striking of the compositions devoted to the memory of Vittoria Colonna, Michelangelo speaks of her influence as the tool by which his own genius had been formed, and which, when removed to heaven and made identical with the divine archetype, left no earthly substitute. That the language was no more than an expression of the fact is shown by the alteration which from this time appears in his verse. Poetry passes over into piety, artistic color is exchanged for the monotone of religious emotion. One may be glad that the old age, of whose trials he has left a terrible picture, found its support and alleviation, yet the later poems, distressing in their solemnity, pietistic in their self-depreciation, exhibit a declining poetic faculty, and in this respect are not to be ranked with their forerunners. The verse of Michelangelo has been lauded 19 as philosophic. The epithet is out of place. If by philosophy be meant metaphysics, there is no such thing as philosophic poetry. Poetry owes no debt to metaphysical speculation, can coexist as well with one type of doctrine as with another. The obligation is on the other side. Philosophy is petrified poetry, which no infusion of adventitious sap can relegate to vital function. Like all other developments of life, philosophic theories can be employed by poets only for colors of the palette. If Platonic conceptions be deemed exceptional, it is because such opinions are themselves poetry more than metaphysics, and constitute rather metaphorical expressions for certain human sentiments than any system of ratiocination. For the purposes of Michelangelo, these doctrines supplied an adequate means of presentation, quite independent of the abstract verity of the principles considered as the product of reasoning. With the sculptor, it was the impressions and feelings of later life that this philosophy served to convey. The few remains of comparative youth lead us to suppose that in the verse of this time the reflective quality was subordinate, the productions of later manhood breathe a gentle emotion, which, allowing for contrasts, may be compared with that animating the poetry of Wordsworth. Only in compositions belonging to incipient age do we find a full development of Platonic conceptions. These, again, constitute a step in the progress toward that Christian quietism into which the stream of the poet's genius emerges, as from its impetuous source, through the powerful flow of its broadening current, a great river at last empties itself into the all-encompassing sea. This philosophy was no result of reading, but a deposit from conversations which the youth had overheard in the Medicean gardens, where he may have listened to the eloquence of Marsilio Ficino. When the time came, these reminiscences were able to influence imagination and color fancy. For a commentary on Michelangelo, one has no need to go to the Phaedrus or Symposium. The verse, like all true poetry, is self-illuminative. That God is the archetype and fountainhead of all excellency, that external objects suggest the perfection they do not include, that objects of nature, reflected in the mirror of the intelligence, move the soul to perform the creative act by which outward beauty is reborn into her own likeness and loved as the representation of her own divinity, that the highest property of external things is to cause human thought to transcend from the partial to the universal. These are conceptions so simple and natural that no course of study is necessary to their appreciation. The ideas are received as symbols of certain moral conditions, and so far not open to debate. Only when the attempt is made to generalize, to set them up as the sum of all experience, do they become doubtful. The principles are better comprehended without the dialectic, and indeed it frequently happens that he who has paid most attention to the latter is least informed respecting the true significance of the imaginations for the sake of which the argument professes to exist. Hand in hand with this Hellenic, one might say human mysticism, went the Christian mysticism expressed in the poetry of Dante. In place of the serene archetype, the apotheosis of reason, we are presented with the archetypal love, reaching out toward mankind through the forms of nature. No longer the calm friend, the beloved person is conceived as the ardent angel, messenger from the Empyrean, descending and revealing. It has been held that these two forms of thought are irreconcilable. I should consider them as complementary. Before the beginnings of the Christian Church had been effected a union of Platonic imagination with Hebrew piety. Christian sentiment expresses in terms of affection the philosophic doctrine, also pious and poetic, however proclaimed under the name and with the coloring of sober reason. It could not have been expected that in the poetical activity which of necessity with him remained a subordinate interest, Michelangelo should have manifested the full measure of that independent force, which in two arts had proved adequate to break new channels. This third method of expression served to manifest a part of his nature for which grander tasks did not supply adequate outlets. The verse accordingly reveals new aspects of character. It was for gentle, wistful, meditative emotions that the artist found it necessary to use rhyme. If not torrential, the current was vital, no line unfreshened by living waters. This function explains the limitation of scope. Essays in pastoral, in terza rima, served to prove that here did not lie his path. In the conventional forms of the sonnet and the madrigal he found the XXIII medium desired. The familiarity of the form did not prevent originality of substance. He had from youth been intimate with the youthful melodies of Dante, the lucid sonnets of Petrarch, but his own style, controlled by thought, is remote from the gentle music of the one, the clear flow of the other. The verse exhibits a superabundance of ideas, not easily brought within the limits of the rhyme, amid an imagery prevailingly tender and reflective. Now and then a gleam or a flash reveals the painter of the Sistine and the sculptor of the Medicean chapel. Essentially individual is the artistic imagery. As Michelangelo was above all a creator whose genius inclined him toward presentation of the unadorned human form, So his metaphors are prevailingly taken from the art of sculpture, alone which enriches the verse by the association with immortal works. These comparisons, taken from the methods of the time, are not altogether such as could now be employed. At the outset, indeed, the procedure scarcely differed. With the sculptor of the Renaissance, the first step was to produce a sketch of small dimensions. The same thing is done by the modern artist, who commonly uses clay and plaster XXIV in place of wax. It is in the nature of the design, or, as Michelangelo said, of the model, that, as having the character of an impression, it must superabound in rude vitality, as much as it is deficient in symmetry and measure. The next step, then as now, might be the preparation of a form answering in size to that of the intended figure, but also in wax or clay. In the final part of the process, however, the distinction is complete. In the 16th century no way was open to the maker, but himself to perfect the statue with hammer and chisel. The advance of mechanical skill has enabled the modern artist to dispense with this labor. It may be questioned whether the consequent saving of pains is in all respects an advantage. At least, I have the authority of one of the most accomplished of modern portrait sculptors for the opinion that in strict propriety every kind of plastic work ought to receive its final touches from the hand of the designer. Even if this were done, the method would not answer to that of the earlier century, when it was the practice to cleave away the marble in successive planes, in such manner as gradually to disengage the outlines of the image, which thus appeared to lie veiled beneath the superficies, as an indwelling XXV tenant waiting release from the hand of the carver. Moreover, the preciousness of the material had on the fancy a salutary influence. Before beginning his task, the sculptor was compelled to take into account the possibility of execution. He would commonly feel himself obliged to make use of any particular block of marble which he might have the fortune to possess. It might even happen that such block possessed an unusual form, as was the case with the stone placed at the disposal of Michelangelo, and from which he created his David. The test of genius would therefore be the ability, on perception of the material, to form a suitable conception. A sculptor, if worthy of the name, would perceive the possible statue within the mass. The metaphor, so frequently and beautifully used by Michelangelo, which represents the artist as conceiving the dormant image which his toil must bring forth from its enveloping stone, is therefore no commonplace of scholastic philosophy, no empty phrase declaring that matter potentially contains unnumbered forms, but a true description of the process of creative energy. Inasmuch as by an inevitable animaism all conceptions derived from human activity are imaginatively transferred XXVI to external life, the comparison is extended into the realm of nature, which by a highly poetic forecast of the modern doctrine of evolution is said through the ages to aim at attaining an ideal excellence. The impulse visible in the art of the sculptor thus appears in his poetry, which, also perfected through unwearied toil, terminates in a result which is truly organic, and of which all parts seem to derive from a central idea. A lyric poet, if he possess genuine talent, is concerned with the presentation, not of form or thought, but of emotion. His fancy, therefore, commonly operates in a manner different from that of the artist, whose duty it is primarily to consider the visual image. The verse of the latter, if he undertakes to express himself also in the poetic manner, is usually characterized by a predominance of detail, an overdistinctness of parts, an inability of condensation, qualities belonging to an imagination conceiving of life as definitely formal rather than as vaguely impressive. On the contrary, Michelangelo is a true lyrist, whose mental vision is not too concrete to be also dreamy. This property is a strange proof of the multiformity of his genius, for it is the reverse of what one XXVII would expect from a contemplation of his plastic work. The inspiration, though in a measure biographic, is no mere reflection of the experience, notwithstanding the sincerity of the impulse, as should be the case in lyric verse, the expression transcends to the universal. It does not detract from his worth as a lyrical writer, that the range of the themes is narrow, a limitation sufficiently explained by the conditions. The particular sentiment for the expression of which he needed rhyme was sexual affection. In the verse, if not in the art, all thoughts, all passions, all delights are ministers of that emotion. Michelangelo is as much a poet of love as Heine or Shelley. The sonnets were intended not to be sung, but to be read. This purpose may account for occasional deficiencies of music. The beauty of the idea, the abundance of the thought, the sincerity of the emotion, cause them to stand in clear contrast to the productions of contemporary versifiers. Less attention has been paid to the madrigals, on which the author bestowed equal pains. These are songs, and the melody has affected the thought. The self-consciousness of the XXVII poet is subordinated to the objectivity of the musician who aims to render human experience into sweet sound. For the most part, and with some conspicuous exceptions, even where the idea is equally mystical, the reasoning is not so intricate nor the sentiment so biographic. A certain number have the character of simple love verse. In these compositions ardor is unchecked by reflection, and desire allowed its natural course, unquenched by the abundant flow of the thought which it has awakened. What assumes the aspect of love-sorrow is in reality a joyous current of life mocking grief with the music of its ripples. If one desired to name the composer whom the sentiment suggests, he might mention Schumann rather than Beethoven. Other indifferent artists have been excellent poets, and other tolerable versifiers clever artists, but only once in human history has coexisted the highest talent for plastic form and verbal expression. Had these verses come down without name, had they been disinterred from the dust of a library as the legacy of an anonymous singer, they would be held to confer on the maker a title to rank among intellectual benefactors. It would be said that an unknown XXIX poet, whose verse proved him also a sculptor, had contributed to literature thoughts whose character might be summed up in the lines of his madrigal dal piualte stel disc and uno splendor che el desir tira aquel, e que si chiama amore. Sonnets, Epigrams and Madrigals 2-3. A selection from the Sonnets of Michelangelo Buonarroti. Italian text translation. I dal ciel disease, ecol mortal suo, poi che visto ebbi l'inferno giusto e il pio, ritorno vivo a contemplare dio, per dar di tutto il vero lume noi, lucent stella, che coraggi sua feci aro, a torto, el nido ov nactuio, ne ser el premio tutto el mondo rio, tu sol, che la Christi, esser culpiet. Di Dante dico, che mal conosciat fer l'opera suo de culpa polo ingrato, che solo a iesti manca di salute. Fus io per lui. Ca tal fortuna nato, per l'aspro esilio suo, con la virtud, der del mondo il piu feliz stato. From heaven he came, and clothed in mortal clay, traversed the vengeful and the chastening woes, living, again toward height eternal rose, for us to win the light of saving day, resplendent star, whose undeserved ray made glory in the nest where I had birth, whose recompense not all a stained earth, but thou his maker, thou alone couldst pay. Dante I mean, and that unfair return endured from a community ingrate, that only to the just awardeth scorn, would I were he. To equal fortune born, for his pure virtue, for his exile stern, I would resign earth's happiest estate. 452 De che concetto ha l'arte intera e diva la forma e glia t di alcun, poi di quello di umil materia un semplice modello e il primo parto che decul deriva. Ma nel secondo poi di pietra viva s'adempian le promesse del martello, esi rinas tal concetto e bello, che ma non e chi suo eterno prescriva. Simil, di mi model, nacquio de prima, demi model, per cosa più perfetta voi rinascer poi, donna alta e dina. Se el poco accres, e el mio supercio lima vestra pieta, qual penitenzia aspetta mio fiero ardor, se mi gastiga e insana? Some deed or form of our humanity when genius hath conceived of art divine, her primal birth, an incomplete design, is shaped in stuff of humble quality. More late, in living marble's purity the chisel keepeth promise to the full, reborn is the idea so beautiful, that it belongeth to eternity. So me did nature make the model rude, the model of myself, a better thing by nobleness of thine to be renewed, if thy compassion, its work cherishing, enlarge, and pair, mine ardor unsubdued awaiteth at thy hand what chastening. 3 Non ha el ottimo artista alcun concetto, ch un marmo solo in se non circunscriva col suo soverchio, e solo a quello arriva la man che obbedizzi all'intelletto. Il mal chio fuggo, el ben chio mi permetto, in te, donna leggiadra, altera e diva, tal si nascent, e perchio piu non viva, contract aria ho l'arte al desiato effetto. Amor dunc non ha, ne tua beltate, o durezza, o fortuna, o grandestino, del mio malcolpa, o mio destino o sword, se dentro del tuo cor mort e pietate porti in un tempo, che el mio basso ingeno non sapia, ardendo, trarn altro che mort. The chief of artists can imagine not, other than form that hideth in a stone, below its surface veiled, here alone arriveth hand, obedient to his thought. So, fair and noble lady, e'en in thee, the good I seek, the evil that I fly, remain enveloped, whence reluctant, I create my aspirations contrary. It is not love, 'tis not thy beauty fair, ungentle pride, thy fortune ruling so, nor destiny of mine, that hath to bear the censure, if my genius faint and low, while death and pity both thou dost conceal, though passioned, can only death reveal. 674 Com esser, donna, piocal ch alcun vid per lunga sperienza, che piu dura el imagine viva in pietra alpestra e dura, che el suo fatur, che gli anni in sena read. La causa all'effetto inclina e seed, onde dal arte e vinta la natura. Io elso, che el provo in la bella scultura, ch all'opera il tempo e mort non tien feed. Dunc passo ambo noidar lunga vita in qual si modo, o de color o sasso, di noi sembrando l'uno e l'altro volto, si che 1000 anni dopo la partita quanto e voi bella fusti, e quant io lasso si veggia, e com amarvi io non fui stolto. How, lady, can the mind of man allow, what lapse of many ages hath made known, that image shapen of pure mountain stone outlive the life that did with life endow? Before effect the very cause doth bow, and art is crowned in nature's deep despair. I know, and prove it, carving forms so fair, that time and death admire, and break their vow. Power, therefore, I possess, to grant us twain estate, in color or in marble cold, that spent 1,000 summers, shall remain the face of either, and all eyes behold how thou wert beautiful, and gaze on me, weary, yet justified in loving thee. Vio mi son caro assi piu non soglio, poi chio te ebi nel cor, piu demi valio, cum pietra ching I untavi el intaglio, e de piu pregio che el suo primo scoglio. O cum scritta o pinta carta o foglio, pius I riguarda di ogni strixio o taglio, tal demi fo, de poi chio fui bersaglio senato dal tuo viso, e non mi doglio. Secur con tale stampa in ogni locovio, cum col si ha incantio arm secco, ch ogni periglio gli fan venir meno. I valio contro all'acqua e contro al foco, col segno tuo rallumino ogni seco, e col mio sputo seno ogni vilano. I feel myself more precious than of yore, now that my life thy signature doth show, as gem inscribed with its intaglio excelleth pebble it appeared before, or writ or painted page is valued more than idle leaf discarded carelessly, so I, the target of thine archery, grow proud of marks I need not to deplore. Signed with thy seal, in confidence I dwell, as one who journeyeth in woundless mail, or hath his way protected by a spell, o'er fire and flood I equally prevail, do works of healing by the signet's might, poison allay, and yield the blind their sight. 896 Quantus I God, lietae ben cont esta defier, sopra crendor diuna, grillanda, che el altro inanzi el uno al altro manda, cum chil prima sia abasier la testa. Contenta e tutto il giorno quella vesta che sera el petto, e poi par che si sponda, equal si oro filato si dumanda el guanzi e el calo di tacar non resta. Ma piulito col nastro par che goda, dorado in punta, con si fat temper, che primitaxa il petto ch egli alexia. E la schietta cintura che esano dami pardir seco, chi vio stringier semper. Or che forbandunch le mi braccia. The blossom-twined garland of her hair delighteth so to crown her sunny tress, that flowers one before the other press to be the first to kiss that forehead fair, her gown all day puts on a blithesome air, clingeth, then floweth free for happiness, her meshed net rejoiceth to caress the cheek whereby it lies, and nestle there, more fortunate, her golden pointed lace taketh her breathing in as close a hold as if it cherished what it may enfold, and simple zone that doth her waist embrace seemeth to plead, here give me leave to stay. What would my arms do, if they had their way? 7 se nel volto per gliaci il cors ivid, altro segno non ho più manifesto delia mi fiamma, adunc busti or questo, signor mi caro, adumandar merced. Forse lo spirto tuo, con magier fede chio non credo, che sguarda il foco onesto che arde, fi di mi pietoso e presto, cum grazia abbonda a chi bencid. O felice col di, se questo e certo. Fermisi in un momento il tempo e il giorno e il sol nella sua anticatrice, oxio chi abbi, e non guia per me merto, il desiato mi dolce signore per sempre nell'indini e pront braccia. If I's avail hard passion to declare, my love requires no more explicit sign, for eloquent enow are looks of mine, O dear my mistress, to convey my prayer. Perchance, more credulous than I believe, thou seest how purely doth my passion burn, and now art ready toward desire to turn, as he who asketh mercy must receive. If so befall, on that thrice happy day let course of time be suddenly complete, the sun give over his primeval race, that through no merit of my own, I may henceforth forever, my desired sweet in these unworthy, eager arms embrace. 10-11 8 Spirto ben nato, in cui si specchia evid nelli Tuesday bel membra onest e care quant natura e el ciel tra no pio fair, quand in null ultra suo bell'opera seed, spirto leggiadro, in cui si spera e creed dentro, cum diffuer nel viso appear, amor, pieta, mers, cos si rare, che m'offen in belta con tanta fede, el amor mi prend, e la belta mi lega, la pieta, la mers con dulcis gerti fermisperans al corpar che ne doni. Qual uso o qual governò al mondo niega, qual crudelta per tempo, o qual più tardi, sia si bel viso mort non perdoni. O Spirit nobly born, wherein we see through all thy members innocent and dear, as if reflected in a mirror clear, what heaven and nature can make life to be, O Spirit gentle, where by faith we know and dwell what doth thy countenance declare, love, mercy, and compassion, things so rare, that never beauty hath combined them so, the love to charm, the beauty to retain, the tenderness, the pity, to uphold by glances mild the soul that doubteth grace. What mortal law, what custom doth ordain, what doom unmerciful to young or old, that death may not forgive so fair a face? 9 Dimmi di grazia, amor, se gliaci me vegano el verdella belta ch aspero, osiol ho dentro all'erce, dov io miro, veggio più bello el viso di coste. Tu el de saper, po che tu vin con le moni mi pace, and io amadiro, ne vor manco un minima sospero, ne men ardent foco cedere. La belta che tu vedi e ben de quella, ma cresci poi ch amiglier loco sale, se per gliaci mortali al almacor. Quivi si fa divina, onesta e bella, com se simil vuol cosa immortale, questa, e non quella, agliaci tuo precura. Love, be my teacher, of thy courtesy, the beauty, whither my regards aspire, doth it exist? Or is what I admire made beautiful by force of fantasy? Thou, love, must know, who in her company arrivest oft to vex me with desire, although I would not choose to quench the fire, abate its glow, nor part with any sigh. The beauty thou hast seen from her did shine, and meet thy mortal vision, but its ray ascended to the soul, a better place, there seemed she lovely, for a thing divine hath joy of its own image, in this way came beauty thou beholdest in her face. 12-13 Ex non posso altra figura imaginar mai, o de nudombra o de terra strespoglia, colpiu alto pensier, tal che mi voglia contra la tua belta di quella s armi. Che, de te mosso, tanto si ender par me, ch amor di ogni valor mi priva e spoglia, onda pensa diminuer mi doglia, duplicando, la mort viena ad armi. Pero non val che più sproni mi fuga, doppiando el corso alla belta nemica, che il mendal più veloce non si scosta. Amor con le su mangliaci amasi yuga, permettendo mi cara ogni fatica, che vil esser non più ci tanto costa. My strong imagination cannot make from solid earth or air of reverie, the form of beauty, that my will can take to be its shield and armor against thee. Abandoned, I decline, till everything doth vanish, that I am and I possess, the thought that haply I may suffer less, destroyeth me beyond all suffering. No hope of safety, when to turn and flee will only speed an enemy's career, the slower from the fleeter cannot stray, yet love consoleth and cares saith me, declaring that my toil may yet be dear, a thing so costly is not thrown away. 11 La vita del mi amor non el cor mio, ch amor, dicul chio ti amo, e senza cor, da vi cosa mortal pionediror, esser non più guiama, ne pensier rio. Amor nel di partir el almada di io mi fe sanacchio, te luc e splendor, ne più non river lo inculcamuari di te, per nostro mal, mi grandicio. Cum dal foco el caldo esser diviso non più, dal bell'eterno ogni mi stima, che salta, and elevine, chi più el so miglia. Tu si hi negliaci tutto el paradiso, per ritornar la davi tama prima, recaro ardendo sot alle tuo siglia. My love doth use no dwelling in the heart, but maketh mansion only in the soul, fi entereth not where sinful hopes control, where error and mortality have part. From source in God commanded to depart, myself he made the eye, the luster, the, I cannot choose but his eternal see, in what, alas, is thy decaying part? No more may fire be sundered from its heat, than my desire from that celestial fair whence thine derives, wherewith it doth compare, my soul, enkindled, make her retreat to primal home, where love did first arise, the paradise secluded in thine eyes. 14 15 12 I mi credeti, il primo giorno ch'io mira tant bellezze uniche e sol, fermar gliaci, cum aquila nel sol, nello minor di tant ch'idcio. Poco no siat ho il fio el ero mio, che ci sens el un angel seguir vol, il semea sassi, al vento le parole indarno ispargi, el intelletto a dio. Dunch, sapprsoilcor non mi sopporta el infinita belta, che gliaci abaglia, ne dilantan parm si curio fidi, che fi dimmi. Qual guida o quali scorta fi che contico ma mi giovio vaglia, sapprsom arti, e nel partir m uccidi. I deemed when erst upon my prospect shone the mateless splendor of thy beauty's day, that as an eagle seeks the sun alone, I might have rested only on a ray. With lapse of time, mine error have I known, for who would soar in angels' company, on stony ground his idle seed hath sown, lost words in air, and thought in deity. If near at hand, I may not well abide thy brilliancy that overcometh sight, and far, appear to leave consoling light, ah, what shall I become? What friend, what guide, will render aid, or plead my cause with thee, if either thou consumesti or grievest me? 13 Veggioco bavistriaci un dolce lum, che come sici giavider non posso, portoco vestri pidi un pondo addosso, che da mi zopi non e gia costume, volo con le vestrale senza pium, col vestringino al ciel semper sun mosso, dal vestra arbitraio sun pallido e rosso, freddo al sol, caldo alla piu fred brum. Nel voler vostro e sol la voglia mia, I mi pensier nel vostro corsi fano, nel vostro fiato sun le mia parole. Cum lunida se sol parchiosia, che gliaci nostri in del vider non sono se non coltanto che en accent il sol. With thy clear eyes I view a radiance fair, before to my blind vision quite unknown, I carry with thy feet a weight, mine own, of halting steps, were never free to bear, upon thy wings I soar to heaven, and there by thy swift genius are its glories shown, I pale and redden at thy choice alone, grow chill in sunlight, warm in frosty air. Thy will is evermore my sole desire, within thy heart conceived each wish of mine, my accents framed purely of thy breath, like to the moon am I, that hath no fire, but only is beheld in heaven to shine according as the sun illumineth. 16 17 14 S un casto amor, S una pieta superna, S una fortuna infra dua amanti equal, S un espersort all un del altro cale, S un spurto, S un voler duo cor governa, S un anima in duo corpi e fata eterna, ambo lavando al cielo e con pariale, S amor di un colpo e di un dorato strale le vicier di duo peti arda e discierna, S amar un el altro, e nessun se mismo, di un gusto e di un diletto, a tal merced, sia un fin voglia el uno e el altro por, se mil non. Serene centesimo a tal nodo di amore, a tanta fede, e sol el istino il pio romper e sior? If one chaste love, one sacred piety, one fortune shared twixt two lovers so, that either's care from heart to heart may flow, impelled by one desire, one energy, if bodies both are by one soul controlled, that winged bears them up to heaven's gate, if love, with one essay, doth penetrate and burn two bosoms with one shaft of gold, if living each in other, self forgot, one liking, one felicity, awake one will to move toward one desired lot, if thousand ties as holy, fail to make a thousandth part, the consecrated knot, shall pride, and pride alone, avail to break? 15 Perci tuo gran bellez al mondo sieno in donna piu cortes e manco dura, prego sene ripagli la natura tutte quel chon or ti vengon meno, e serbi reformar del tuo sereno e divin volto una gentil figura del ciel, sia di amor perpetua cura rifar non cor di grazia e pieta piano. E serbi poi I mi sospiri ancora, ele lacrime spart insim accoglia, e donia chi quella ami un altra volta. Forza pieta chi nasira en quel ora la movera con la mi propria doglia, nefia persa la grazia or me tolta. That womanhood more tender and less cold be clothed with beauty equal and the same, I pray that heaven may from thee reclaim her gifts, that hourly perish and grow old, of thy serene and radiant face rameled a gentle heavenly form, and love assign the task to store a heart more mild than thine with mercies sweet and charities untold. My sighs let him preserve, from every place my fallen wasted tears unite again, and on the friend of this new fair bestow. Thus may befall, that he who sues for grace compassion shall awaken by my pain, and love that I have lost be garnered so. 18-19-16 La Regian Mico si lamenta e dole, part chi spero amando esser felice, con forti esempli e convir parole la mi fergognia mi ramenta, e dice, che ne ripertera dal vivo sol, altro che mort? E non cum fenis. Ma poco giova, che chi catervuli, non basta l'altrui man pront e vitris. I conosco e mi doni, e el vero intendo, dal alta bunda, albergo un altro cor, che pium uchid dove pium rendo. In mezzo di du mort e el mi signori, questa non voglio, e questa non comprando, così sospso, il corpo e l'alma muori. As oft as I am free to nourish faith that in my love may lie my happiness, with wisdom old and word of soberness humility reproveth me, and saith, what canst thou hope within the vivid sun, say be consumed, and find no phoenix birth. In vain, for helping hand is nothing worth to rescue life that fain would be undone. I hear her warn, my peril understand, yet inwardly discern a heart concealed, that tortureth the more I yield, between two deaths my lady seems to stand, one mystical, one hateful to espy, irresolute, both soul and body die. 17 Non so se la desiata luz dal suo primo fatur, che el alma sente, o se dalla memoria della gente alcun altra belta nel cor tralus, o se fama o se sogno alcun produce agliaci manifesto, al cor present, de se lasciando un non so che cosent, che force, or col chi anger me conduce, col chi sento e chi cerco, e chi mi gidi mico nani, ne so ben vider dove trovar mel passa, e parc altri mel mostri. Questo, signor, m'avvien, po chi 6 vidi, si un dolce amaro, un sie no mi muove, certo serano stati gliaci vestri. I know not if it be the longed for light of its creator, that the soul doth feel, or long retentive memory reveal some creature beauty, dwelling inly bright, or if a history, a dream, I keep to eyes apparent, treasured in the heart, whereof fermenteth some uneasy part, that now, perchance, inclineth me to weep. I long, I seek, and find not any guide, nor whither, of myself have wit to know, yet vague perceive a presence point the way, such life I lead since thee my looks espied, from bitter change to sweet, from I to know, I think, thine eyes lent that enkindling ray. 2021-18 Perci febo non torque e non distend intorno questo globo freddi mal le braccia sue lucenti, el vulgo val notte chiamarcal sol che non comprend. E tant edible, che es alcun accent un piccol torchio, in quella part tal la vita dalla not, e tant e fal, che l'escasio fusel la scorcia e fend. Ese gli per che qualche cosa sia, cert e figlia del sol e della terra, che l'untien l'ombra, e l'altro sol lacria. Ma sia che vuol, che per chi la loda era, vedova, scur, in tanta gelosia, ch una lucula sol glipio far guerra. When Phoebus hath no mind to strain and press our chilly sphere in his embraces bright, his negligence the multitude call night, a name of absence, till he glow again. So impotent is she, so weak and vain, that kindle up a torch, its petty light doth work her death, and frame she hath so slight, that flashing of a flint will rend in twain. If night in her own self be anything, call her the daughter of the earth and sun, the last creating, first receiving shade. Be what she may, how glorify a thing widowed, dim-eyed, so easily undone, that glowworm's lantern turneth her afraid. 19 O not, O dolce tempo bench nero, con pace o nopers semper al finis alta, ben vede ben intent chi te salta, e chi te oner, ha l'intellet intero. Tu mozzi e tronchi ogni stanco pensiero, che illumid ombra ogni quieta palta, e dall'infima part alla piu alta in sogno spesso porti ovi spero. O ombra del morir, per cui si ferma ogni miseria l'alma al cor nemica, ultimo degli afflitti e bon rimedio, tu rendi sana nostra carne inferma, rassiagai pianti, e posi ogni fatica, e furia chi ben vivon ire tedio. O night, O season in thy darkness sweet, for every toil falls peaceful to its close, he deemeth well who laudeth thy repose, and who exalteth, payeth homage meet. Thy dewy shade, with quiet falling slow, divides the fret of never pausing thought, from deep of being to the summit broad, in dream thou gidst me where I hope to go. Shadow of death, the safe protecting gate barred by the soul against her hunter grief, of human woe the final, only cure, the fever of the blood dost thou abate, dry lingering tears, give weariness relief, and anger steal from him who liveth pure. 22-23 XX non vidi ergliaci mi cosa mortali allerce ne bavestri interapace trove, ma dentro, ovioni mal despias, chi di amor l'alma se simil masale. Ese creata a dio non fusse egual, altro che el bel diffuor, ch agliaci pace, piu non voria, ma perci si fallis, trascend nella forma universale. Io dico, chhe vive colchamuri quitar non può discernere, nepars aspetti l'eterno al tempo, ov altri cangia il pelo. Voglius frenata el senso e, non amore, che l'alma uccid, el nostro fa perfetti gli amid chi, ma piu per mort in cielo. Mine eyes beheld no perishable thing, when holy peace I found in orbs of thine, and inwardly obtained a hope divine, a joy my kindred soul enamoring. Unless create God's equal, to receive equality with him, she might depend on shows external, because these deceive, toward universal form she doth transcend. Life cannot sate its wishes with decay, nor yet eternity commandment take from years wherein we wither and grow chill, 'tis lust hath energy the soul to slay, not love, that fain would the beloved make perfect on earth, in heaven, more perfect still. XXI per ritornar la donde ven fora, el immortal forma al tuo carcer terreno ven com angel di pieta si piano che sana on intelletto, el mondo onera. Questo sol arde, e questo innamora, non per di fora il tuo volto sereno, ch amor non guia di cosa che vien meno tien ferma spem, in cu virtu dimora. Ne altro avien di cos alteri nuove in cui si prime la natura, el cielo e cha lor parto largo essa parroquia. Ne dio, suo grazia, mi si mostra altrove, piuche en alcan legiadro immortal velo, equal sol amo, perci enkel si spectia. One day to rise toward height where it began, the form immortal to thine earthly cell, an angel of compassion, came to dwell with balm and healing for the mind of man. Such life it is that doth thy life endear, and not thy face serene, its envelope, in shadows that decline and disappear, immortal love cannot repose his hope. 'Tis true of all things marvelous and fair, where nature taketh forethought, and the sky is bountiful in their nativity, God's grace doth nowhere else so far prevail as where it shineth through a body's veil, and that I love, for he is mirrored there. 2425 XXIISEL mi razzo martello iduri sassi forma di un aspetto or questo or quello, dal ministro, chl guida iscorgi e tilo prendendo il moto, va con gli altrui passi, mocal divin, in cielo alberga e stasi, altri, esepiu, col proprio andar fa bello, esse nessun martel senza martello si può far, del vivo ogni altro facci. E perci el colpo e di valer più piano quant alza pius stesso alla fusina, sopra el mi, questo al ciel negito avallo. Onde a mi non finito vera meno, s or non glida la fabbrica divina euto a farlo, si al mondo era solo. If my rude hammer lend enduring stone similitude of life, being swayed and plied by arm of one who doth its labor guide, it moveth with a motion not its own, but that on high, which lieth by God's throne, itself, and all beside makes beautiful, and if no tool be wrought without a tool, the rest are fashioned by its power alone. As falls a blow with greater force and heat the further it descends, for forging mine, the lifted hammer high as heaven flew, wherefore mine own will never be complete unless perfected from the forge divine, for that which shaped it earth may not renew. 2627 Epigrams I caro mel sun no, epiul esser de sasso, mentor che el dano e la fergogna dura, non vider, non sentir, mi gran ventura, pero non mi di star, det. Parla basso. On the statue of night in the Medicean sacristy sweet is to sleep, and marble peace to know, now, while dishonor and disgrace are near, 'tis all my fortune not to see, nor hear, therefore do not awake me, ah! Speak low. Tu io dico a voi, ch al mondo avit dato el anima e el corpo e lo spirito ensem, in questa casa oscura e el vostro lato. Lines written on a coffin carried by death thou, who hast bequeathed to the world the spirit and the body and the soul, here is thy home, here in this casket dim. 3 Amore e un concetto di bellezza immaginata, cui sta dentro al cor, amica di virtute e gentilezza. Love is an idea, that may express imagined beauty, dwelling in the heart, a friend of virtue and of gentleness. 2829 madrigals I per molti, donna, anzi per mil amanti, creata fusti, e di angelica forma. Or parce en ciel si dorma, s un sol s appropriacal che dato attanti. Ritorna a nostri pianti il sol digliaci tuo, che parce scavici dal suo dono in tal miseria e nato. Det. Non turbate I vostri desir santi, che ci dimi parce six spogli e privi, col granti more non god il gran peccato. Che degli amanti e men felice stato quello, ov el gran desir gran copia offerina, si una miseria di speranza piena. Florentine exiles for many, for 1,000 lovers, thou, lady, wert made of form angelical. Asleep, perchance, lie sealed heavens now, while one enjoyeth grant designed for all. Render to our sighs the sunlight of thine eyes, that shunneth him, who into sorrow born, doth languish of their benefit forlorn. The city of Florence, nay, calm your holy aspiration, know that he who maketh you my boon forego, in fear doth expiate his mighty crime. And I with lovers sadder is the time, when love expireth of satiety, than while aboundeth hope in misery. 30-31 Tu non semper al mondo esi pregieto e caro col che molti contenta, che non si il con che senta, col che lor dolce, spes volte amaro. Il bon gusto esi raro, cha forza al vulgo seed, aller che dentro di stesso god. Und io, perdendo, imparo col che diffuor non vid chi l'alma attrista e suo sosper non ode. Il mondo e seco, e disuo gradi o lode piu giovaici piu scarso esser ne suoli, cum sferza che insania, e part dually. However worship worthy and complete be deemed a work that many lovers know, may live the man who doth not find it so, deriving bitter from the lauded sweet. Taste is so rare, a thing so isolate, that from the multitude it must recede, alone upon internal joy to feed, wherefore in self retired, and passionate, I see what vieweth not the outer eye, cold to the soul and heedless of her sigh. The world is blind, and from its praises vain he learneth most who freest doth remain, suffers, and hath a lesson in his pain. 3 Perci e troppo molesta, anchor che dolce sia, la grazia si altra fa preda e preghione, mi liberta, per questa tuo sama cortesia, piu che di unferto al vero amor esipone. Di par passi e region, ma sel unda piu che l'altro non dona, e bengiasta questione, che un sormonta, e l'altro non perdona. 'Tis burdensome, however it be sweet, the friendly boon that doth oblige the friend, my liberty, thy courtesy to meet, worse than if robbed, doth with true love contend. The soul of friendship is equality, if friend more freely than his fellow give, ariseth rivalry, the first excelleth, last doth not forgive. 32-33 For ora in sol distro, ora in sol manco pied variando, circo della mia salute, fra el vizio e la virtud il cor confuso mi travaglia e stanca, cum chi el del non vid, che per ogni sentir si perda, e manca. Porgo la carta bianca o vestri sacri inciastri, ch amor mis gani, e pieta el ver ne scriva, che el almada se franca non pigia gli error nostri mio breve resto, e che men seco viva. Chigio avoy, alta e diva donna, saper sen seal men gradocian elumul peccato che el supercio bene. A pilgrim seeking my salvation still, from foot to foot I change, as wearily I range quite indeterminate twixt good and ill, a stumbling farabi, who, viewless of the sky, doth lose his way and wander at his will. The white and vacant leaf inscribe with word of thine, let love and pity come to my relief, and liberate my soul from dark and doubt control for petty period that yet is mine. Lady, I ask thy saintliness divine, if heaven on high a lower seat provide for shamefast sin, then virtue satisfied. 34-35 Viglia chi mi vavi del cos bel, el alma insim della sua salute, non hanno altra virtut ch ascenda al ciel, che mirar tutte quel. Dal piualde stel disc and uno splendor, che el deser tira aquel, e chi si chiama amore. Ne altro hajanti cor, che el inamora e arda, e che el consigli, ch un volto che ne gliaci lor somigli. My glances pleased with everything that's fair, my soul inclined toward her celestial gain, devoid of power high heaven to attain, can find no way, save only gazing there. Stars loftiest above a radiancy lend, bidding desire ascend, that light is here named love. Nor gentle heart hath any other friend to fortify, enamor, and advise, than countenance with star-resembling eyes. 6 Se dal cor lito divien bello il volto, dal tristo il brutto, ese donna ispra e bella il fa, chi fi ma quella che non ardi di me, com io di lei? Possie distinguer molto dalla mi chiara stella de bello a bel fer fatiglia che me, contra se fa coste non men crudel, che spesso dica, dal cor me, smorto il volto viena. Che s'altri fa se stesso, pingendo donna, in quella che farà po se sconsolatostion? Duncan bo en ari bene, ritrala cor lito el viso asiato, se fari bella, e me non fari brutto. If happy heart make beautiful the face, but sad heart foul, and for a lady's sake be born the cause that such effect doth make, how hath she courage for refusing grace to me, whose birth star bright accordeth the clear sight that rightly chooseth between fair and fair? Sure she who hath my mind proves to herself unkind, my feature if she render full of care, for if in likeness shown a painter leaves his own, small loveliness can wait on labor of a hand disconsolate. Then let her please to favor mine estate, that I may paint blithe heart and smiling eye, she will grow fair, and not unlovely. I 36-37 7 negli anni molti e nelli multipruove, cercando, il saggio al buon concetto arriva di un'immagine viva, vicino a mort, in pietra alpestra e dura, si alle cose nuove tardi si viena, e poco poi si dura. Similmente natura di tempo in tempo, di uno in altro volto, s al samo, errando, di bellezza e giunta nel tuo divino, e vecchia, e de perir. Onde la tima, molto con la belta congiunta, distregno sibo pass il gran desire, ne so pensa, ne dire, qual nyoca ojo vpiu, visto el tuo spetto, o el fin dell'universo, o el grandilito. Year after year, essay beyond essay, seeking, the lessoned maker doth arrive at the idea, he leaveth I alive in alpine marble, though his life be flown, for only in the twilight of his day he reacheth what is noble and his own. Thus nature, long astray from age to age, from face to fairer face, hath finally achieved thy perfect grace, when she herself is old, and near her end. Therein I find to dwell a fear, that with thy loveliness doth blend, and my desire toward passion strange compel, I cannot think or tell, if sweet or painful be thy beauty bright, the world's conclusion, or my love delight. 8 Si cum per lavar, donna, si pone in pietra alpestra e dura una viva figura, che la piu cresci piu la pietrissima, tal alcanopra bon, per el alma che per trema, sella il supercio della propria carne co l'incolta sua cruda e dura scorza. Tu per dal mi stream partipio sol levarn, ch in me non e dimi voler ne forza. In mountain marble white, doth hide a statue bright, that waxeth ever while the rock doth wane, and so from flesh control the timid trembling soul mine inward fair would liberate in vain. Lady, I look to thee alone to set me free, for in myself doth will nor power remain. 38-39 9 Se di una pietra viva l'arte voul che chi viva al par degli anni il volto di coste, che dovria il ciel di lei, sendo mi questa, e quella suo faccia, ne guia mortal, ma diva, non solo aglia che me? E per si part, e piccol tempo dura. Dal lato destro e zapami ventura, un sasso resta, e cost morta ferita. Chi ne farà vendetta? Natura sol, se de suo nati sola l'opera quadura, e la suo el tempo invola. In alpine stone and pure if art may bid endure her countenance as long as summers flow, what period should heaven on her bestow, its own creation, radiant and free, for others, as for me? And yet is she with fading life endued. My fortune then in her best foot is lame, if death the substance, life the semblance claim. On whom devolves the feud? On nature's self, if of her sons alone the work survive, and time despoil her own. Ex non per di argento odoro, vinto dal foco, esser po piena aspetta vota di opera perfetta la forma, che sol frata il traga fora, tal io, col foco ancora di amor dentro ristoro il desir voto di belta infinita, di coste chi adoro, anima e cor della mi fragile vita. Alta donna e gradita in me disc end per si brevi spazii, trar la fora, convien mi rompa e strazi. For silver or for gold, after in fire these have been made to flow, doth wait the empty mold, that shattered, will the lovely image show, through passion ardor, so my vacancy I store with the divine unbounded loveliness of her whom I adore, the soul and essence of my fragileness, whose beauty doth impore, and occupy by passages so straight, that broken I must be to liberate. 40-41-11 BT, Voce sunel seal godet le lacrime che el mondo non ristora, favi amor guerra ancora, o per mort liberi ne siete? La nostra eterna quiet, fuor di ogni tempo, e priva di invidia amando, e di angustia si pianti. Dunch mal pro chi viva convien, convidit, per amore e servir in dolor tanti. Sel cielo e degli amanti amico, e el mondo ingrato amando, a che son nato? A viver molto? E questo mi spaventat, che el poco e troppo a chi ben servi stentat. O blessed spirits, who in world's release are recompensed for tears it could not pay, tell me if love wage war on you alway, or death hath yonder made his quarrel cease. Our everlasting peace, all time beyond, here loveth unacquaint with mortal lovers' sorrow and complaint. Then sad it is for me to linger, as you see, loving and serving where my heart doth faint. If heaven be lovers' friend, and earth their anguish lend, need I live long? The thought doth cause me fear, to wistful lover minutes years appear. 12 Non per la mort, ma el timor de quella de donna iniqua e bella, chon or eman side, mi diffendi scampa, ese taler emavampa piu, che el usato il foco in chio sun corso, non trovo altro soccorso che el imagine sua ferma in mezzo il cor, che dove mort non es oppressa amore. Not death alone, but his indwelling dread doth succor and set free from sway of one unjust as cherished, who constantly doth make assault on me, as oft as flameth with unwonted force the fire that folds me, I have no resource save keep his image central in the heart, where death abides, love hath not any part. 42-43-13 S egli e che el bon dicio porti dal mondo a dio alcuna cosa bella, sol la mi donna e quella, a chi hoglia chi fatti com ho io. Ogni altra cosa oblio, e sol di tant ho cura. Non e gran maraviglia, siol amo e bramo e chiamo a tutte el or, ne proprio valor mio, sel alma per natura essapaggia a chi so miglia ne gliaci, ond ella send for, se sente il primo amore cum suo fin, percul qua questa onora, amar di el servo el signore adora. If any beauteous thing can human hope exalt to God on high, for one who hath the vision made as I, alone my lady may like comfort bring, wherefore it is not strange, if from the rest I range to love her, to pursue and supplicate, 'tis nature's law, not mine, that bids the soul incline toward eyes reminding of its first estate, whereby it hath recourse to its own end and source, the primal love, that her with beauty storeth, he loves the vassal, who the Lord adoreth. 44-45-14 Quantunch versia, che el alta e divina pieta chi mostri il tuo bel volto umano, donna, il placer lontano me tardi si, che dal tuo non mi parto, si al alma pellegrina gli e duro un altro sentiero erto e arto. Und il tempo comparto, per gli occhi il giorno e per la notte il cor, a l'uno, a l'altro il foco ardent, sens intervallo alcun, ch al cielo aspiri. Dal destinato parto si meti det amore, ch alzar non oso I mi ardenti desiri, se el vernani, che tiri lament al ciel per grazia o per merced, tardi amailco arcal elicio non-vid. Though true it be, that charity divine show mirrored in yon lovely face of thine, yet, lady, moves the distant hope so slow, that from thy beauty I lack power to go. The pilgrim soul, that would with thee delay, finds rough and stern the straight and narrow way. My time I therefore part, to eyes give day, and darkness to the heart, to last the water, and to first the fire, no interval, toward heaven to aspire. A destiny of birth enchained me to the earth in grant of thee, save mercy of the sky please to descend, and lift my heart on high, heart will not love what looks cannot espy. 46-47 15 al alta tuo lucent diadema per la strada erta e lunga nani, donna, chigi unga, esumulta non via giugni e cordicia, il monte cres, el mi valorissima, e la lina mi manca a mezza via che tuo belta per sia superna, al corpar che dilito renda, che di ogni rara altezza e giotto e vago, po per gioire della tua leggiadria, bramo per che discenda la davan I ungo, e en tal pensier m'appago, sel tuos digno presigo, per basso amore e alto odiar tuo stato, a te stessa perdona il mi peccato. Thy lucent crowned beauty to attain upon a narrow and laborious way, the pilgrim vainly maketh his essay, save thy humility his feet forestall, the path aspireth while the strength doth wane, and midway on the road I pant and fall. Although thy loveliness celestial be heaven's thing, yet it doth delight the heart inclined toward stranger of the height, wherefore thy sweetness full to comprehend, I long to have thee stoop, and condescend as low as I, of the idea content, if thy disdain severe and prescient itself forgive for sinfulness of mine, to love thee lowly, and to hate divine. 16 Dimmi, amor, sel alma de coste fos pietosa com habel il volto, s alcanceria si stolto chase non si tagliasi e desiale. Etio che piu patrei server la, amar la, se mi fos amica, che, sendo mi nemica, el amo piu chlr far non dovere. Tell me, love, had she a heart as kind as beauty that her feature doth partake, could there be found the wretch so dull and blind, that would not choose himself from self to take, and give to her? Yet even if she grew my loving friend, what more could I bestow, when in her coldness, while she seems my foe, I love her better than I else could do? 48-49 17 Cum pio esser chio non siapiu mio. Odio, odio, odio. Chi mi tolsa mi stesso, cha mi fusse piu presso, o piu dimmi, che mi possa esser io. Odio, odio, odio. Cum mi passa el cor chi non par che mi tocchi. Che cosa e questa, amore, ch al cor entra per gli occhi, es avien che trabocchi per poco spazio, dentro par che cresca? How came to pass that I am mine no more? Me, who took myself from me to draw more close to me than ever I could be, more dearly mine, than I myself before. Me, how reached he to the heart touching no outward part? Who prithee may love be, that entered at the eyes, and if in breathed sighs he go abroad, increaseth inwardly. 18 Oni cosa chi veggio mi consiglia, e prega, e forza chio 6 segua et ami, che col che non e voi, non il mio bene. Amor, che sprezza ogni altra maraviglia, per mia salute vuol chio searchi e brami voi sol solo, e cosi el almission di ogni alta spani e di ogni valor priva, e vuol chio arda e viva non sol di voi, ma chi di voi so miglia digliaci e del siglia alcuna part. E chi di voi si part, a chi mia vita, non halus poi, che el seal non e dub non set voi. All nature urgently doth me advise, implore, compel, to follow thee, and cling to my soul blessed thing. Love, who doth other loveliness despise, to make me seek salvation only here, doth in my heart destroy desire of other joy, and only measure of delight allow in beauty semblant to thine eye and brow, yet being no longer near to you, clear eyes, its light hath ceased to shine, for only where you dwell is heaven of mine. 50-51-19 Chi equal che per forza a te e me mina, o him o him o him. Legato e stretto, e sun libero e sciolto. Se tun cateni altrui senza catena, e senza mani o braccia raccolto, chi mi difenderà dal tuo bel volto? Who thee ward draws me, spite my striving vain. Ah woe is me! Am I at once imprisoned and free? If thou dost chain me without any chain, and handless, armless, all my life embrace, who shall defend me from thy lovely face? XXSE el comodo de gliaci alcan const ring con luso, part insim la regian perda, e team, che pius ingenical chasepiu creed, onde nel cor dipenge per bellocal apicciol belta seed. Ben 6fo, donna, feed che el comodo neluso non hapriso, si di raro e mi vegan gliaci vestri circunstriti ova pina il desir vola. Un punto sol ha accesso, nepiu 6 vdch una volta sola. If habit of the eyes engender ease, faint reason on her way feareth to go astray, lest inwardly she taketh for beauty fair, what beauty quite forsaketh. Lady, it doth appear that ease and custom have not made you dear, for that my looks are foreign to your own, toward whose confine my wishes dare not soar, I was inflamed in a breath alone, your feature I have gazed on once, no more. 52-53 XXI ogni uomo in una donna, anzi uno dio, per la sua bocca parla, and io per ascoltar la son fatto tal, che ma piu sorrow mio. I credo ben, po chio ami de le fu tolto, fuor de mi stesso aver de mi pietate, si sopra el vandicio mi sprona il suo bel volto, chio veggio mort in on altra beltate. O donna, che passate per acqua e foco al milieti giorni, defate mi stesso piu non torni. Thoughts of a man, nay of a god alone, her lips of woman render eloquent, whence I, who listen purely with content, may never more depart and be mine own. Since she my life hath taken, and self have I forsaken, I pity self that I was wont to be. From wavering will astray her fair face make free, till other beauty death appears to me. Thou, who dost souls convey to paradise through chastening fire and wave, lest I to self return, dear lady, save. XXIIIO dico che fra noi, potenti dei, convienzioni riverso si soperti. Poi che saret morti de milngeri e torti, amando te comer de le tu arti, far ne patre giustament vendetta. A him lasso chi per trop aspetta chi gengaha sua conforti tanto tardi. Anchor, se ben riguardi, un generoso alter e nobile cor perden, e porta a chi elephanta more. Florentine exile o'er us, I think, divinities on high? Impendeth every shameful overthrow. Michelangelo, albeit thou underlie 8,000 deaths of injury and woe, a period will be, when loved by her as she is loved by thee, thou mayest the sweet of lawful vengeance know. Florentine exile, alas! For I aweary doth he dwell, who waiteth for his comfort coming slow. And perfect truth to tell, a generous heart, of proud nobility, forgiveth, and doth love its enemy. 54-55 XXIIIS Alcuna part in donna Echa bella, bench el altricion brut, deb io amaral tute pel gran placer chio prendo sol de quella. La part che esapella, mentor il joire enatrista, a la region, per voli che l'innocent error si scusi e ami. Amor, che mi favola della noiosa vista, comirato dir suoli, che nel suo regno non es attenda o chiami. El ciel per vol chio bramiacal che spias non sia pieta vana, che luso agliaci oni malfatto sana. If that she own a feature passing fair, while void of happy liking live the rest, ought I affection toward the whole to bear, for sake of beauty by the one possessed? The lovely part, dist rest, my praise doth deprecate, and sue to reason for her sister's sake, that also they be cherished, and forgiven for fault they did not mean. Then love, irate, who thinketh but on pain that they have given, saith, in his court there lieth no appeal. Yet heaven willeth fondness that I feel, when toward her imperfection merciful, time maketh her, for me, all beautiful. XXIV mestier non era al alma tuo beltate legarm vinto con alcuna corda, che, se ben mi ricorda, sol di uno sguardo fui prigione e preda, si alle grandoglio sate forzi si undabil cor subito sida. Ma ci fi ma che creda, preso de tuo begliaci in brevi giorni un legno secco e arso verde torni. Thy sweetness had no need of cord or chain its prisoner to bind, too well I bear in mind, how I was conquered by a glance alone, the heart subdued by many an ancient pain hath lost the fortitude it erst did own. Yet who hath ever known, that wakened by a look, in time so brief, a withered tree should kindle and bear leaf? 56-57 XXV Amor, SE2 SEDIO, non pio cio che tu voi? Defa per me, se pia, col chio fere per te, s amor fus io. Sconvienzi al grandissimo di alta belta la spam, vipio l'effetto, a chi e presso al marire. Pon nel tuo grado il mio, dolce gli fi chi el prime. Che grazia per poc or, da pia el martiri. Ben ti voglio anchor dire, che seri mort, sa misery e dura, a chi muergi unto all alta sua ventura? O love, thou art divine, a god to work thy will, prithee, for me fulfill all I would do for thee, if deity were mine. He were no friend of thine, who hope of lofty beauty should bestow on one who presently must life forego. Come put thee in my place, thy idle prayer retrace, wilt thou implore again, that granted, only would enlarge the pain? Death hath a sober face, if even the unhappy find him rude, how stern to one arrived at full beatitude. Notes on the Sonnets Epigrams and Madrigals 61 Notes on the Sonnets The Roman numbers, in the introduction and notes, refer to the numeration of Guasti, le rime de Michelangelo Buonarroti, Florence, 1863. English translations of the poems on the corrupted texts of 1623 were based the versions of J. E. Taylor, Michelangelo considered as a philosophic poet. With translations. London, 1840, and of J. S. Harford, Life of Michelangelo Buonarroti. With translations of many of his poems and letters. London, 1857. The beautiful renderings of Wordsworth, 5 sonnets, depended on the same faulty presentation. The correct texts of Guasti were followed by J. A. Symonds in his complete translation of the sonnets of Michelangelo Buonarroti and Thomas C. Campanella. London, 1878. In his biography of the sculptor, The Life of Michelangelo Buonarroti, London, 1893, Symonds rendered several of the madrigals. A selection 62 from the poems, with the Italian text, and renderings by different hands, was edited by Mrs. E. D. Cheney, Selected Poems from Michelangelo Buonarroti, with translations from various sources. Boston, 1885. This publication includes 13 epitaphs for Sicino Bracchi, and the verses written by Michelangelo on the death of his father, as well as a number of the sonnets of the last period, after 1547. Versions of single sonnets may be found scattered through periodical literature. One Donato Gianotti wrote an essay concerning the duration of the journey through hell and purgatory, as related in the Divina Commedia. This discussion he cast into the form of a dialogue, in which Michelangelo is given the principal part. The conversation is dated as taking place in 1545, and one of the interlocutors is made to recite the sonnet which, with doubtful accuracy, is said to have been composed a few days before. The work of Gianotti is interesting as containing the estimate of a contemporary concerning the character of Michelangelo, but the words assigned to him cannot be considered as a record of his actual expressions. The essayist seems to have applied to the artist for material, as indicated by the subscription of the following sonnet, probably composed at this time. 63 Tu quant dern si de non sipuo dire his praise remains unuttered, for his fire of glory burneth with o'er vivid flame, the home that wronged him easier to blame, than toward his humblest merit to aspire. This man for us descended, where God's ire subdueth sin, once more toward heaven rose, the gates that his Creator did not close, a cruel city barred to his desire. A ruthless mother, nurse of her own woe, in measure as her sons are excellent, their sorrow making bitterly to flow. Of thousand instances one argument, no man hath lived more shamefully exiled, no age hath known alike, a greater child. 214 The sketch, characterized by rude vigor, lacks the truth and harmony essential to a beautiful work. These qualities are to be attained by the final touches of the hammer, or, as we should now say, of the chisel. So it is only the influence of the beloved person which can perfect the incomplete design of nature, and bestow on the character its final excellence. Of all the sonnets, this is the most celebrated. Respecting an inferior variant, the younger Buonarroti, in an obscure mention, appears to say that it was contained in a letter of the 64 sculptor written in 1550, which letter made mention of the Marchioness of Pescara, and this assertion has led Guasti to refer the sonnet to that date. It is quite clear, however, that the treatment does not belong to the later period, after the death of Vittoria Colonna, in which the productions of Michelangelo had assumed the monotone of a colorless piety. It seems to me more likely that the time of composition is to be set earlier than 1534, and that the conception, ideal in character, had no relation to Vittoria, with whom the sculptor had perhaps not yet become acquainted. 315 The sculptor, who is designated as the best of artists, on beholding the block of marble at his disposal, obtains the suggestion of a statue. This possible work appears to him as a figure concealed beneath the veil of superincumbent matter, which he proceeds to remove. His success will depend on the clearness of internal vision. If he lack the vivid conception, the result will be an abortive product, which metaphorically may be called a likeness of death. So if the lover, in place of the mercy which he desires to awaken, can create in the heart of his lady only a feeling inconsistent with his wishes, the blame should be laid solely to his own insufficiency. The idea is poetic, not philosophic, and the sonnet a poem of love 65 belonging to what I have called the earlier manner of the poet. The sonnet has been paraphrased by Emerson: never did sculptor's dream unfold a form which marble doth not hold in its white block, yet it therein shall find only the hand secure and bold which still obeys the mind. So hide in thee, thou heavenly dame, the ill I shun, the good I claim, I, alas, not well alive, miss the aim whereto I strive. Not love, nor beauty's pride, nor fortune, nor thy coldness can I chide, if whilst within thy heart abide both death and pity, my unequal skill fails of the life, but draws the death and ill. In this rendering the fourth line is open to criticism. It is not want of manual skill that is the cause of failure, but the inability to form an adequate idea. Harford modernizes the introductory lines. What her conception a great artist fires, its answering semblance latent lies within a block of marble. The metaphor is thus reduced to the scholastic platitude, that in all matter lies the potentiality of form. So Varchi understood 66 the lines, and cites Aristotle as authority that the action of an agent is nothing but the extraction of a thing from potency to act. With changes on such intolerable jargon he occupies 2 pages. The lecture, intended to be flattering, only serves to show with what contemporary crassness the delicate conceptions of Michelangelo were obliged to struggle. 417 The contrast between the permanence of the artistic product and the transitoriness of the mortal subject suggests reflections which may take different turns. See Madrigal number 913. One is reminded of certain sonnets of Shakespeare. 519 The lover feels himself enriched by the impression of the beloved, which, like the divine name on the seal of Solomon, confers the power of working miracles. The pretty composition is among the few which may be said to be inspired by a really cheerful and joyous sentiment, and, like the preceding, may be held to belong to the earlier manner of the poet. 6xx This most beautiful sonnet, somewhat immature in its music, is a precious relic of Michelangelo's early love verse. The poem was written below a letter from his father, received in Bologna, and dated December 24, 1507. Subscribed is the line, La mrde e lega et me parmi un zucchero 67 She burns me and binds me and eats me, and I think her a sugar plum. The lines, therefore, have a biographic inspiration, and may be presumed to have been in honor of some young beauty of Bologna. A fragment of a madrigal seems akin. Cii leze, veze, carotse, or fest e pearl, chi patria ma vituril cogliati suo divin eluman lavoro, ov el argento e el oro de el rici evo duplica suo luz. Oni gemma piu luz dagliaci suo che de propria virtud. Looks, laughter, graces, God, and pearl, who that gazeth on the girl ever hath a thought to spare for the gold that gleameth there, or if silver sparkle fair. Every gem that on her lies borroweth lustre from her eyes. In this connection also should be cited the sonnet which Guasti has placed next in order, and which also seems to contain internal evidence of belonging to a period relatively early. 68xxid altrui pietoso e soldi se spietato to others kind, and only self-oppressed, doth live a lowly worm, that to adorn a lady's beauty will her life divest, in death alone appearing nobly born. So would my lady might esteem no scorn her life in my mortality to vest, that I might shed the slough, and be reborn forth from my being to a state more blessed. Would that of me the silken thread were twined, that fashioned to her happy gown, doth use so fair a bosom with content to bind, by day at least to wear me, or the shoes, that like the column's base, her steps sustain, if only in the falling of the rain. It would seem that these remains of the poetical activity of early manhood, though not numerous, are yet sufficient to refute the rash generalizations of biographers who undertake to sum up the personality from their impressions of the artistic product. It does seem strange that with these lines before him, Mr. Symonds could have written, Michelangelo emerges as a mighty master who was dominated by the vision of male beauty, and who saw the female mainly through the fascination of the other sex. The defect of his 69 art is due to a certain constitutional callousness, a want of sensuous or imaginative sensibility for what is specifically feminine. Michelangelo neither loved nor admired nor yielded to the female sex. I find it difficult to resist the conclusion that Michelangelo felt himself compelled to treat women as though they were another and less graceful sort of males. What he did not comprehend and could not represent was woman in her girlishness, her youthful joy, her physical attractions, her magic of seduction. What makes Michelangelo's crudity in his plastic treatment of the female form the more remarkable is that in his poetry he seems to feel the influence of women mystically. I shall have to discuss this topic in another place. It is enough here to say that, with very few exceptions, we remain in doubt whether he is addressing a woman at all. There are none of those spontaneous utterances by which a man involuntarily expresses the outgoings of his heart to a beloved object, the throb of irresistible emotion, the physical ache, the sense of wanting, the joys and pains, the hopes and fears, which belong to genuine passion. Michelangelo's Donna might just as well be a man, and indeed, the poems he addressed to men, though they have nothing sensual about them, reveal a finer 70 touch in the emotion of the writer. Life, Volume I, c. 8. See Volume 2, pages 381-5. The reasons for the limitation which may have prevented Michelangelo from adequately representing the sensuous aspect of womanhood, should be sought in the character of his plastic genius. So far as the power of appreciation is concerned, and especially in regard to the spirit of the verse, the opinion of Mr. Symons appears to me to reverse the fact. The nature of the artist may be pronounced especially sensitive to the physical influence of woman. If, in the extant poetry, this sentiment appears in chastened form, such calmness may be set down solely to the period of life. Yet even in these later compositions, extreme impressibility is revealed in every line. Mr. Symons's error has prevented him from entering into the spirit of the sonnets, and also constitutes a deficiency in his instructive biography. See note to sonnet number 13xx. 7xxii. The verse, direct and passionate, though doubtless of a later date, still bears the character of pieces which must be pronounced relatively early. Observable is the use of theologic metaphor, employed only for the sake of poetic coloring, and not yet sublime to pure thought. 71.8xxiv. This delightful sonnet, according to the nephew, was found on a letter bearing date of 1529. CP 7. The lines seem to give the idea of a gentle and lovely personage whose countenance shines out as through a golden mist. In later compositions, the conflict of death and love is worked out differently. See Madrigal number 913. 9xxv. On the same authority, this inexpressibly charming production is assigned to 1529. Here appear the germs of Platonic imagination. The soul, a divine essence, endows the visible suggestion with the spiritual essence derived from its own store. But the object is not completely divinized, the end is still possession. The reflective element will increase, the sensuous lessen, until poetry passes over into piety. 10xxvii. The love verse is not to be taken as wholly biographic, but rather as ideal. 11xxvii. The atmosphere of the sonnet is that of later time and of a more rarefied height. We are now in full Platonism. The soul, heaven-born, perceives in the eyes of the beloved its primal home, the paradise whence itself has descended, and the heavenly affection of which earthly love is a reminiscence. But the period may still be before the Roman residence, and the meeting with Vittoria Colonna. 7212xxix. The sonnet may safely be set down as belonging to the later time. The sentiment of unhappy attachment, impossible desire, wistful loneliness, breathes through the verse. The piece contains two mystical but grand lines. Whoever has hoped for an elevation not given to mortals has wasted his thought in the endeavor to penetrate the recesses of deity, as seed is lost on the stony ground, and words spent in the limitless air. 13XX This gentle and tender poem, of the earlier period, somewhat similar in sentiment to number 519, and obviously from the heart, is penetrated by the same feeling as that discernible in NOS 8 and 9 XXIV and XXV. Varke, with his characteristic want of perception, chose to fancy that it might be addressed to a man, like the following, said to be composed for Tommaso Cavalieri. XXXIHAPIU deb io my l'intensa voglia, what right have I to give my passion vent in bitter plaint and words of sighing breath, if heaven, soon or late, apparelleth each living soul in mantle of lament? Why ere his time, invoke the feet of death, when death will come? Nay, rather let my glance 73 at last dwell peaceful on his countenance, since other good my sorrow vanquisheth. Yet if no power is mine to shun the blow I court and seek, what help will be my own, to interpose twixt dolour and delight? Since prison and defeat allure me so, it is not strange, if naked and alone, I remain captive of an armed knight. The words Cavalier Armato are supposed to have referred to the aforesaid Cavalieri, a Roman youth whom Varka describes as all that was beautiful and lovable. The highest male beauty seems to have had for Italians of the Renaissance, an attraction similar to that which it possessed for Athenians, a charm which our modern taste does not entirely comprehend. Thus the early death of Sicino Bracchi had produced a great sensation. The epitaphs addressed to his memory by Michelangelo, who had never looked on his face, attest the sincerity of his own sentiment. For Cavalieri, whom the artist had known in 1533, he seems to have what can be described only as a passion. The three extant letters addressed to the young man breathe that timidity, sense of inferiority, and fear of misunderstanding which ordinarily belong only to sexual attachment. This emotion needs no apology other than that contained in a letter to this friend, and if you are sure of my 74 affection, you ought to think and know that he who loveth remembereth, and can no more forget the things he fervently loves, than a hungry man the food that nourishes him, nay, much less may one forget beloved objects than the food on which man liveth, for they nourish both soul and body, the last with the greatest sobriety, and the first with tranquil felicity and the expectation of everlasting salvation. Lettera, number 4, 16. The susceptibility of Michelangelo toward external impressions is noted by Gianotti, who makes him affirm that as often as he set eyes on any person endowed with excellence he could not help becoming enamored of him in such manner that he surrendered himself to him as a prey. Quasti, rhyme, pxxxi. To the point is Michelangelo's own estimate of his character expressed in a sonnet. 18 Alcor disolfo, alla carne distapa, the heart of sulphur and the flesh of tow, the bones inflammable as tinder dried, the soul without a bridle, without guide, in liking prompt, toward joy o'er swift to go, the reason purblind, halting, lame, and slow, tangled in nets wherewith the world doth teem. No marvel 'tis, if even in a gleam 75 I kindle up in flame that first doth glow. With that fair art endowed, whereby the mind from heaven that bringeth, nature doth outvie, and with itself all being occupy, if I thereto was born nor deaf nor blind, proportionate to heat that I desire, 'tis fault of him who made for me the fire. It is well to know that Cavalieri seems to have had a modest and noble nature, and that his personal attachment and artistic appreciation soothed the declining days of Michelangelo, at whose end he was present. The mention of Michelangelo himself, Lettera, number 466, Symonds, Life, Volume 2, p. 130, seems to prove that the sonnet was really composed for his young friend. but it is one thing to conclude that the piece was addressed to Cavalieri, quite another to suppose that it was inspired by him. The ideas are the same as those elsewhere appearing in reference to women. The composition does not appear to me one of the most original, and I should be disposed to regard it as ordinary love verse, into which, out of compliment, the writer had introduced the punning allusion. In any case, it is to be observed that in the Platonic compositions treating of male friendship, the whole argument is metaphorical, the comparisons being 76 borrowed from the earlier poetry of sexual love. Fundamental is the question, what proportion of Michelangelo's verse was intended to relate to men, and how far can such verse, if existent, be taken to imply that he had no separate way of feeling for women? The opinions of Mr. Symons have already been cited, see note to number 6xx. In noticing Michelangelo's use of the idiomatic Tuscan word signore, lord, as applied in the sonnets to female persons as well as male, the English liege may similarly be used, he says, but that Michelangelo by the signore always or frequently meant a woman can be disproved in many ways. I will only adduce the fragment of one sonnet, Nols Xeith. It is a pity that Mr. Symons did not enter into detail. I am quite at a loss for any circumstances that can be held to warrant his declaration. For the word, the sonnets only afford information. No 16, containing the word Signor mi car, is a variant of No 15, expressly addressed to a lady. In No XXII, no one will doubt that the reference is to a woman. In No XXXV the sex is shown by the epithet leggiadra, fair, applied to the arms, Mr. Symons renders fragile. No XXXVII qualifies senior by donna. No LV treats of the shyness of a lady in presence of 77 her lover. In No XL, instead of senior, the variant gives donna. No Slai seems obviously addressed to Vittoria Colonna. In No 30, the feminine application appears to be indicated by the description of the sovereign person as reigning nella casa d'amore. Thus in not a single instance can the suggestion of Mr. Symons be accepted. There remains the fragment mentioned, Nols Xeith, a beautiful and interesting piece, unhappily imperfect. Yonder it was that love, amor, variant, Signor, his mercy, took my heart, rather my life, here with beauteous eyes he promised me aid, and with the same took it away. Yonder he bound me, here he loosed me, here for myself I wept, and with infinite grief saw issue from this stone him who took me from myself, and of me would none. It will be seen that the masculine pronoun is rendered necessary by the reference to personified love, and that the allusion is clearly to sexual passion. Mr. Symons has not entirely comprehended the scope of the fragment. The mystical description of love as issuing from a stone, sasso, may probably be an application of the familiar sculpturesque metaphor. As, in the instances considered, the opinion of Mr. Symons appears void of foundation, so it is counter to the tenor of the poetry 78. If No XXXI really was written for Cavalieri, the reference probably consisted of no more than the introduction, into the ordinary phrases of a love poem, of a complimentary play on words. As for the metaphor by which a lady is compared to an armed enemy, that was already commonplace in the day of Dante. 14 XXXII. From pieces dealing with ideal affection we pass to one obviously biographic in its inspiration. The poem is written below a letter of 1532, addressed to the sculptor when in Rome. The artist seems to refer to his own impetuous nature, too liable to quarrel with friends. Analogous is the sonnet addressed to Luigi del Riccio. See Madrigal No. 3 note. But this composition evidently relates to a lady, as is shown by the mention of the Dorato Strail, gilded dart of love. 15 XXXIII. As with all lyric poetry, So in the compositions of Michelangelo, it is not to be assumed that every expression of emotion of necessity corresponds to some particular experience. Yet the tenderness, melancholy, and gentle regret which inspire the verse evidently reflect the character and habitual manner of feeling of the author. Related in sentiment are the following sonnets: 79 XXVI non men gran grazia, donna, che gran doglia by happiness as deep as agony below the scaffold is the caitiff slain, when lost to hope, and ice in every vein, his pardon comes, his sudden liberty, so when, beyond thy wonted charity, my heaven overcast with many a pain thy sovereign pity doth make clear again, more deep than anguish, pierceth ecstasy. Sweet news and cruel in so far agree, as either in a moment may destroy the heart by grief, or sunder it through joy. If thou desirest that I live for thee, the rapture meet, for many a creature frail hath died of grace too free for its avail. XXXV Cento di un foco un freddo aspetto acceso I see a face that in itself is cold, yet lit with fire that burneth me afar, two arms, that quiet and unmoving are, whereby all else is moved and controlled, the vision of a beauty I behold, immortal, yet pursuing me to death, a power that free, my own envelopeth, another's balm, that may my hurt enfold. How can befall, that a fair countenance hath power to cause effects so contrary, creating what it doth now own? Perchance, the life that taketh my felicity, yet doth itself deny, is like the sun, that yieldeth the world heat, yet heat hath none. 38th Rendit agli me, O font O fiume a give me back, or river thou or source, the turbid waters that enlarge thee so, that thy augmented current doth o'erflow, and hasten on an unaccustomed course, O laden air, whose gathered mists allay and temper heaven's shining to these eyes, return my weary heart her many sighs, and cloudless leave the countenance of day. Earth, render to my feet their steps again, along the track they trod let grass grow green, restore, deaf echo, my petitions vain, and alas, unmoved eyes serene. Give mine their wasted looks, that they may see some kinder loveliness, disdained by thee. With these sonnets of ideal love may be compared one later in date, apparently more biographic in sentiment, and doubtless inspired by Vittoria Colonna. 81 Lsi avisi cregito al primo sguardo had I believed, when first I met the glow of this bright soul, my son, that I might rise through fire renewed in such triumphal wise as doth the phoenix from her ashes go, like some fleet-footed creature, pard, or roe, that seeks its joy and flieth from its fear, to meet the act, the smile, the accent dear, I would have leaped, now in my swiftness slow. Yet why indulge regret, the while I see in eyes of this glad angel, without cease, my calm repose and everlasting peace. More painful days, perchance, had dawned on me, if I had earlier met, yet been denied the wings she lendeth me to fly beside. 1636 The timid lover, who finds himself involved in the dangers of a hopeless passion, endeavors to withdraw from the perilous situation, but in so doing finds himself confronted by another danger, that of losing the affection which has become his life. As the vain desire will prove the death of the body, so the renunciation will be that of the soul. Thus the suitor, according to the familiar metaphorical system furnished by plastic 82 art, is said to see his lady with a statue of death on either hand. The beautiful and mystic sonnet was written on a stray leaf bearing a memorandum of 1529, and was probably composed in that year. According to the statement of the nephew, NOS 8 and 9 XXIV and XXV were also written on letters of that year, and these two poems correspond in sentiment with the present piece. 17XL This most beautiful sonnet might conjecturally be referred to the same period as number 12XXIX. The spirit of the verse ought to be enough to satisfy any reader that it was composed with reference to a woman. See note to number 13XXX. 18, 19 Slien, XLIV. These two pieces, containing respectively the dis praise and praise of night, are obviously intended to be counterparts, the first forming an introduction to the second. The consolations belonging to darkness and slumber have furnished themes to very many writers of verse, but among all such pieces Michelangelo's tribute is entitled to preeminence. The emotion, deepening with the progress of the rhyme, ends in one of those outbursts which make the poetry a key to the character. Two other sonnets treating of the same subject do not appear to be connected. 83 Xli Kaluiche Fece, e non de cosa alcuna. He who did erst from primal nothing bring time, integral, and property of none, to half, dividing, gave the distant sun, to half the moon, a lamp more neighboring. All in a moment, destiny and chance began, and over mortals ruled with power, to me they gave the still and sober hour, as like to like, in birth and circumstance. As attribute in action is expressed, and darkness is the property of night, so e'en to be myself is sad to be, yet is my troubled spirit soothed to rest, remembering, its dusk may render bright the sun that fortune lent for friend to thee. In no xlii night is lauded, as the shadow in which man is engendered, while in the day the soil is broken only for the seed of the corn, but the composition does not rival the sweetness and sublimity of no xliv. 20 Lii. This fine sonnet, belonging to the later period, may be set down as among those inspired by Vittoria Colonna. Thoroughly characteristic is the grand fifth line, in which the soul is said to have been created as God's equal. The nephew, of course, diluted such daring conceptions into commonplace 84, and his restoration altogether fails to convey the essential meaning of the piece. Wordsworth, unfortunately, knew only the emasculated version. Similar in theme is another sonnet, No. LX, also rendered by Wordsworth, from a text more nearly representative. In this instance the English poet has transcended his source, and furnished a proof that on fortunate occasions a translation may belong to the very best poetry, and deserve that immortality which commonly belongs only to expressions of original genius. Yes. Hope may with my strong desire keep pace, and I be undismayed, undismayed, for if of our affections none find grace in sight of heaven, then wherefore hath God made the world which we inhabit? Better plea love cannot have, than that in loving thee glory to that eternal peace is paid, which such divinity to thee imparts, as hallows and makes pure all gentle hearts. His hope is treacherous only, whose love dies with beauty, which is varying every hour, but in chaste hearts uninfluenced by the power of earthly change, there blooms a deathless flower, that breathes on earth the air of paradise. 85-21 LVI. The sonnet is to be classed with the preceding. In a variant, the theologic metaphor is carried further, from without, I know not whence, came that immortal part which separateth not from thy sacred breast, yet traverseth the entire world, healeth every intellect, and honoureth heaven. 22 LXI. As all tools used by man are formed by means of other tools, the archetypal tool must be that celestial instrument by which the world is fashioned. On earth, Vittoria Colonna had been the hammer, as we now say, the chisel, by which had been inspired the creative activity of the artist. By her death, this influence had been withdrawn to heaven, there to become united with the all-forming hammer of the eternal Maker. It is, therefore, only from on high that the artist can look for the completion of his own genius. To the text, in the hand of Michelangelo, is added a sentence expressing his sense of the incomparable merit of Vittoria, as the divine instrument which none other is able to wield, and a prayer that his own hammer, as he metaphorically says, may also attain a reception in heaven. The mystically expressed, but in reality simple and direct verse is crowded with ideas which strive for utterance. The sculptor 86 seems to have written prophetically, After the passing away of Vittoria, the last of his animating impulses appears to have been removed, and his life becomes that of a recluse, struggling with the infirmities of advancing age. Several other pieces relate to the death of Vittoria. Lxii quando el ministro de sospermi tanti, when she who minister sighs, withdrew from the world's sight, from her own self and mine, nature, who made her in our eyes to shine, remained abashed and downcast all who knew. Yet be not death of his loud vauntings rife o'er the sun's son, as over others, love hath him subdued, and her endowed with life both here below, and with the pure above. Unjust and haughty death did so engage to hush her praises, and her soul bestow where it would seem less beautiful, and lo! Reverse effects illuminate time's page, on earth, more life than she in life possessed, while heaven who wished her, now enjoyeth blessed. The thought, that nature is disgraced in the loss of its best creation, is repeated in Michelangelo's poetry. See sonnet number 417, madrigal number 913. 87. Two other sonnets, Nos Lxviii and Lxiv, breathe an atmosphere of the most gloomy despair. The first expresses a profound self-reproach: the time to soar heavenward was while the sun of life still shone, it is now too late. The second declares that the flame has expired, to leave only ashes without a spark. I do not doubt that here also belongs another sonnet, placed by Guasti as if belonging to an earlier date. Li tornami al tempo all'arche lenta e sciolta, give me the day when free was cast the rein for headlong ardor's unreflecting race, restore to me the calm angelic face wherewith interred seems virtue to remain, give back the wanderings, the steps of pain, so slow to him by weary age oppressed, give water to my eyes, fire to my breast, if thou wilt take thy fill of me again. If, love, 'tis true, thou livest on no more than sighs and tears of lovers bittersweet, a weary age hath not of thy desire, the soul already near the further shore, with shield of holier darts doth thine defeat, and the burned wood is proof against the fire. 88. A madrigal relates to the same theme. 6. Per non es avrei ripagli de tanti, that perfectness of beauty free from peer might be reclaimed and garnered without fail, upon a lady excellently clear was it bestowed beneath a shining veil, the heavenly boon had hardly been repaid, if scattered among all that heaven had made. Now, from world unaware, in breathing of a sigh, hath God who reigns on high resumed, and hid away his beauty fair. Yet, though the body die, cherished shall memory still sacred and sweet, her written legacy. Compassionate and stern, if heaven's will to all had granted what to her alone, we all had died for making good the loan. The madrigal recites that deity had chosen to embody in a single life the sum of beauty, to the end that the celestial gift might be more easily resumed. Similar concetti are to be found in the series of epitaphs composed on Sicino Bracci, in 1544. Mr. Symonds very unjustly criticizes the verse as constrained, affected, and exhibiting an absence of genuine grief. 89. Notes on the epigrams. 1. I, the night of the Medici Chapel. According to Vasari, when the statues of the Medici Chapel were exposed to view, after Michelangelo's departure for Rome, early in 1535, an unknown author affixed a quatrain to the image of night. This person was afterwards known as Giovanni di Carlo Strozzi, at the time 18 years of age. The verse, not ungraceful but superficial, recited that night, carved by an angel, was living, for the very reason that she seemed to sleep, and if accosted, would make reply. To this fanciful compliment, Michelangelo responded in the beautiful quatrain, which exhibits his view of the Medician usurpation. It were to be wished that in presence of the awful forms, visitors would bear in mind the sculptor's advice. I have heard a young American lady, in a voice somewhat strident, expound to her mother the theme of the statue, reading aloud the information furnished by Baedeker. 2. Death and the Coffin. The younger Buonarroti cites the statement of Bernardo Buontalenti, that in his house in Rome, halfway up the stair, Michelangelo 90 had drawn a skeleton Death carrying on his shoulder a coffin, on which were inscribed these lines. The story is interesting, in connection with the part taken by Death in the verse of the sculptor. Buonarroti represents him as declining to attend a merrymaking on the ground that it was necessary to muse on death. See Madrigal number 1216. The idea appears to be that death cannot be dreadful, since it bequeaths to life not only the immortal soul, but even the body. Probably the artist meant to say the body made immortal through art. 3. Definition of love. With this definition from the subjective point of view, may be compared Madrigal number 5-8. As usual, the imagination of the poet takes plastic form. Love, in his mind, is a statue lying in the heart, and waiting to be unveiled. Acon is the celebrated sonnet of Dante, Amore co argenti sono una cosa, which contains the same conception, and which perhaps Michelangelo may have remembered. But the more mystical idea of the sculptor borrows only the suggestion. 91 notes on the madrigals. 1. During his Roman residence, Michelangelo was brought into intimate relations with Florentine exiles, who gathered in Rome, where ruled a Farnese pope, and where certain cardinals favored the anti-Medicean faction. From the course of a turbulent mountain brook, Florence, following an inevitable law, was obliged to issue into the quiet but lifeless flow of inevitable despotism. It could not be expected that the fiery Michelangelo could comprehend the inexorableness of the fate which, in consequence of the necessities of trade, compelled Florence to prefer conditions ensuring tranquility, though under an inglorious and corrupt personal rule. The sublime madrigal shows the depth of his republican sentiments. See number 22 8th. 2. The difficult but very interesting madrigal gives a profound insight into the spirit of the writer, who felt himself to move in a society foreign from the higher flight of his genius. His habits of isolation are remarked by contemporaries. Buonarroti, in the dialogue above mentioned, discourses amusingly on this trait of character, putting 92 into the mouth of the artist a reply to an invitation. I won't promise. Why? Because I had rather stay at home. For what reason? Because, if I should put myself under such conditions, I should be too gay, and I don't want to be gay. Luigi Del Riccio, introduced as interlocutor, exclaims that he never heard of such a thing. In this sad world one must seize every opportunity of distraction. He himself would supply a monochord, and they would all dance, to drive away sorrow. To this comforting proposition, Michelangelo returns that he should much prefer to cry. Buonarroti romances, but Francis of Holland is nearer the fact when he makes the sculptor answer an accusation urged against solitary habits. The artist declares that there is good ground for such accusation against one who withdraws from the world by reason of eccentricity, but not against a man who has something better to do with his time. The particular occasion of the madrigal seems to have been dissatisfaction with praise lavished on what to Michelangelo seemed an unworthy work. Southey paraphrases the poem, but gives the idea only imperfectly. Here, in connection with the idea of beauty as furnished from within, may be introduced a version of a madrigal interesting rather on 93 account of the philosophic conception than the poetic excellence. See also Sonnet 18, translated in the note to No XX. 7. Perfido esemplo alla missing in action vocation on me hath been bestowed by birthtide gift, of both mine arts the mirror and the light, beauty, my model in my calling here. It only hath the competence to lift the vision of the artist to that height at which I aim in form or color clear. If judgment rash and fantasy unwise degrade to sense the beauty, that doth bear and raise toward heaven all sane intelligence, man's wavering glances have no power to rise, above inconstant, faithful only where they linger, unless mercy call them thence. 3-4 The madrigal is addressed to Luigi del Riccio, friend of Michelangelo's declining years, and a correspondent to whom were transmitted many of the extant poems. In 1544 Luigi, during a sickness of the sculptor, took him into his own house and acted as his nurse, but shortly afterwards, he refused a request of the artist, declining to suppress an engraving he had been requested to destroy. 94 The indignation of Michelangelo found vent in a bitter letter. Riccio died in 1546. Symonds, Life, Volume 2, p. 194, thinks that Michelangelo speedily excused his friend and repented his anger. Here the whole heart of the artist is disclosed, and we have a revelation of the manner in which internal brooding and many disappointments had rendered somewhat morose a gentle and affectionate nature, characterized by pride amounting to a fault. With the idea may be compared Emerson's essay on gifts. Hence the fitness of beautiful, not useful things, for gifts. This giving is usurpation, and therefore, when the beneficiary is ungrateful, as all beneficiaries hate all timons, not at all considering the value of the gift, but looking back to the greater store it was taken from, I rather sympathize with the beneficiary than with the anger of my Lord Timon. For the expectation of gratitude is mean, and is continually punished by the total insensibility of the obliged person. It is great happiness to get off without injury and heart-burning from one who has had the ill luck to be served by you. It is a very onerous business, this of being served, and the debtor naturally wishes to give you a slap. He adds, entirely in the spirit of Michelangelo, no services are of any value, but only likeness. 95 4v The poet addresses to his friend Vittoria Colonna a theologic inquiry, after the manner of the appeals of Dante to Beatrice. Apparently the letter included a blank leaf for an answer. The question is, in heaven are contrite sinners less valued than self-satisfied saints? The obvious reply must be that in the nature of things such saints are impossible. The inquiry, therefore, is not to be taken as serious, but as playful and ironical. I should be inclined to interpret the verse as asking, am I, an humble artist, but sincerely devoted, of less value in your eyes than the very courtly and important personages by whom you are surrounded? As Vittoria was in close intimacy with high ecclesiastical functionaries. The sentiment is gay and jesting, while full of pleading affection. 5-8 If of all the compositions of Michelangelo, one were asked to name the most representative, it would be natural to select this incomparably lovely madrigal. No lyric poet has brought into a few words more music, more truth, more illumination. The 4 lines cited at the end of the introduction might well be taken as the motto for a gathering of the poems, and if the arrangement had not seemed inconsistent with the numbering of the pieces, I would gladly have placed 96 the madrigal at the end, as summing up the especial contribution of Michelangelo to letters. 6-9 A charming and light-hearted piece of music, obviously belonging to the earlier period of Michelangelo's poetic activity. The verse is written on blue paper, with the subscription, divine things are spoken of in an azure field, in heaven. The suggestion is furnished by a conventional concetto of the period, but the familiarity does not prevent the thought lending itself to genuinely poetical treatment. No X is a pretty variant, in which the cruelty of the lady is compared to the hardness of the marble in which her image is wrought. The lines are subscribed for sculptors, de sculptori. The close connection with his art lends to even the most simple of these verses an unspeakable attraction. 7-11 In this magnificent song, worthy of the greatest of lyric poets, we are still occupied with the concepts of plastic art. The artist achieves the complete expression of his idea only through painful toil, and often lapse of years which leave him ready to depart from a world in which accomplishment is itself a sign of ripeness for death. With that universal animaism, as we now say, by which all general truths of man's life are felt to be also applicable to the course of nature, the poet 97 is entitled to apply the idea to external being. And with what insight? If ever genius can be said to have forecast the conclusions of scientific inquiry, it is so in this instance. Michelangelo presents us with a truly modern conception of nature, as the creative artist, who through a series of ages and a succession of sketches, is occupied with continually unsuccessful, but ever improving efforts at the expression of her internal life. The perfection of the creature, which marks the accomplishment of the undertaking, signifies also the end of the process. With such completeness is felt the sorrow incident to all termination, and especially the pain of the mortal, who feels that delight in perfect beauty enforces the consciousness of his own transitoriness, and emphasizes the sense of nature as perishable. Hence, perhaps it may be explained that all perception of perfect loveliness is said to be accompanied by a sensation of fear. The piece possesses a grandeur of rhythm corresponding to its depth of intellectual apprehension, and is worthy to stand beside the greatest of the artist's plastic productions, as equally immortal. In such verse Michelangelo rose to the level of a world poet, nor has early English literature anything of a kindred nature worthy to be placed in comparison. 812 Michelangelo perpetually varies 98 but never repeats the theme. Once more, it is not the trembling of the hand which causes the artist's failure, it is the uncertainty of the mind, not clear as to its intent. 913 Again the bitter contrast of the permanence of art with the fleeting period of human life. We have had the idea in Sonnet 17. But the argument is now carried a step further. According to medieval, and also modern, national morality, the destruction of kindred implies the duty of blood vengeance. On whom, then, devolves the conduct of the feud made necessary by the taking away of the beloved? Not on man, but on nature, whose pride must be offended by the preference given to the works of her children as compared with the transitoriness of her own. The permanence of the artistic product is therefore a sign that nature herself is bound to require of time atonement for the wrong done to imagination, and thus art is made the prophet of restoration. 1014 The metaphor is now furnished by the work of the metal caster, and since in this case there has been no change in the conditions of manufacture, the comparison still seems simple and natural. 1115 The tender, simple, and universally applicable lament at the same time includes its own consolation. 99 1216 The idea of death as deliverer from love is often repeated by the poet. Buonarroti probably followed rather the verse than any spoken words in the sentences he has put into the lips of the artist. I remind you that to rediscover one's self, and to enjoy one's self, it is not necessary to seize on so many pleasures and delights, but only to reflect on death. This is the only thought which enables us to recognize ourselves, which maintains us in unity with ourselves, and prevents us from being robbed by parents, kinsfolk, friends, great masters, ambition, avarice, and other vices and sins, which take man from man, and keep him dispersed and dissipated, without suffering him ever to find himself and become at one with himself. Marvelous is the effect of this thought of death, which in virtue of its nature all destructive, nevertheless conserves and supports those who include it in their meditation, and defends them from every human passion. Which, methinks, I have sufficiently indicated in a madrigal, where, in treating of love, I conclude that against it is no better defense than the thought of death. A beautiful variation, characterized by the author's invariable originality, is furnished by the number next in Guasti's edition. 117 Nella memoria del cos bel when memory may cherish and endear some lovely sight, resolve availeth not for her discroning, until death appear, and exile her, as she made him forgot, chill flame to frost, change laughter into pain, and make abhorred the beauty loved before, that tenanteth the empty heart no more. Yet if she turn again her lucid eyes toward home of their desire, with arid bow more ardent grows the fire. 1318 The idea that only through contemplating the person of the beloved can the soul transcend from time to eternity is familiar in the later compositions of Michelangelo. Compare Sonnet 21 LVI. 1419 The same conception receives a different treatment. Mortal beauty is now represented as exercising too potent an attraction, and preventing the desire from mounting beyond it. 15xxi The thought has been elaborated in a modern sense by Lowell in his Endymion 101 Goddess, reclaim thy heaven, and be once more an inaccessible splendor to adore, a faith, a hope of such transcendent worth as bred ennobling discontent with earth, give back the longing, back the elated mood that, fed with thee, spurned every meaner good, give even the spur of impotent despair that, without hope, still bade aspire and dare, give back the need to worship that still powers down to the soul that virtue it adores. So far the idea coincides with that of Michelangelo, but the conclusion of the later poet varies. Goddess triform, I own thy triple spell, my heaven's queen queen, too, of my earth and hell. Such could not be the termination of the author of the Renaissance, at a time when his star was Vittoria Colonna. 16xxii The sweet and plaintive verse was popular as a song even in the lifetime of Michelangelo, as may be inferred from its mention by Varca. 17xxv The madrigal has all the spirit of English song in the early part of the 17th century, but what English verse, having the same idea, could be mentioned in comparison? 102.18 Lee The beautiful song exhibits a great number of variations. Perhaps on account of the musical character, counteracting a meditative tendency, Platonic philosophy appears only as lending a gentle mist transformed by the sunshine of pleasurable passion. 19 Lii Compare Knowles zi. I should assign this madrigal, in spite of its light character, to the later epoch. 20 Live The ninth line appears to contain a reference to Vittoria Colonna, who lived in a convent, toward which the desires of the poet, as he says, scarce dared to reach. 21 Lvii It can scarce be doubted that the attribution of masculine thought to the beloved is a reference to the character of Vittoria. 22 Lxiath The dialogue of this madrigal is intentionally veiled, as if the poet were conscious of dealing with a dangerous theme. Sublime are the last two lines, containing all the Michelangelo of the Sistine frescoes. The sentiment is not the purely Christian conception of forgiveness of injuries, the mildness which on principle turns the other cheek. Significant is the word altero, haughty. Michelangelo describes the sentiment of a great and proud spirit, so lofty as to feel a superiority to personal resentment, so truly Florentine 103 as to receive no satisfaction in the prospect of vengeance taken on a citizen of Florence. 23 Lxix A pretty piece of poetic ratiocination, cast into the form of a case tried before a court of love, and ending, in the spirit of the poet, with a universal truth. 24 Lzi Compare number 20 Live. It will be seen that the allusions give some reason to believe that the idea is intended to be biographic, though of course not to be taken as entirely literal. 25 Skein A pleasing way of expressing a sense of the incompatibility of love and death, that appears in many variations, and must be considered biographic in its sentiment. Index of first lines 107 Index of first lines The Roman numbers refer to the numeration of Guasti sonnets page XXXI. Acpi deb io mi l intensa voglia 7218. Al cor disolfo, alla carn distapa 74 xli. Colui chafis, e non de cosa alcuna 8317. Com esser, Donna, Piocol ch alcan vid 714. De che concetto ha l'arte intera e diva 5 I dal seal disease, ecol mortal suo, poi 3xxi. D altrui pietoso e sol de se spietato 68xxv. Dimmi di grazia, amor, se gliaci me 11xxix. I mi credetti, il primo giorno chio 1519. Io mi son caro assai piu chio non soglio 736. La region mico si lamenta e dol 19xxvii. La vita del mio amor non el cor mio 1315. Non ha el ottimo artista alcun concetto 5xxvi. Non men gran grazia, donna, che gran doglia 79xxvii. Non posso altra figura immaginarmi 13xl. Non so se la desiata luz 19 li. Non vidi ergliaci mi cosa mortali 23xliv. O not, o dolce tempo bench nero 21 slien. Perci febo non torque non distn 21xxxii. Perci tuo gran bellez al mondo cieno 17 lvi. Per ritornar la donde ven forward 23 lxii. Quant el ministro de sos per mi tanti 86 tu. Quant dern si de non si pio dire 108-63xx. Quantu si godliatae ben cont est 938. Rendit agliaci mi, o font o fume 80 lxi. Sel mi razzo martello iduri sassi 25xxii. Se nel volto per gliaci ilcorsi vid 9xxxv. Cento di un foco un freddo aspetto acceso 79 lsi avasi cregito al primo sguardo 81xxiv. Spurto ben nato, in cui si specchia vid 11xxxii. Es un casto amor, es una pieta superna 17 li tornami al tempo all'erce lenta e si olta 87 xxx. Veggio co bavistriaci un dolce lung 15 epigrams I caro mel sun no, epiul esser de sasso 27 2. Io di co avoy, ch al mondo avit dato 27 v amore e un concetto di bellezza 27 madrigals xxi. Al alta tuo lucent diadema 47 skene. Amor, se2 sedio 5715. Bt, voce sunel seal goaded 41 liii. Chi equal che per forza a te me mina 51xxv. Cumpio esser chio non siapiu mio 49xxii. Det. Dimmi, amor, sel alma de coste 47 8. Gliaci mi vadi del cos bel 35 lxiath. Io di coche fra noi, potenti dei 53 cii. Leze, veze, caratse, or fest e pearl 67 lxiath. Mestier non era al alma tuo beltate 109 55 11. Negli anni molti e nelli multipruo 37 17. Nella memoria del cos bel 114. Non per di argento odoro 39 16. Non per l'amort, ma el timor di quella 41 3. Non semper al mondo esi pregiato e caro 31 li. Ogni cosa chi veggio mi consiglia 49 v ora in sol distro, ora in sol manco pied 33 4. Perci e troppo molesta 31 7. Perfido esemplo alla mia vocazione 93 I per molti, donna, anzi per mil amanti 29 6. Per non s aver ripaglier de tanti 88 19. Quantunch ver sia, che l alta e divina 45 lxix. S alcuna part in donna e che sia bella 55 9. Se dal cor lito divian bello il volto 35 13. Se di una pietra viva 39 18. S egli e che el bon dicio 43 live. Sel comodo de gliaci alcan const ring 51 12. Si cum per lavar, donna, si pon 37 lvii. Ogni uomo in una donna, anzi uno dio 53. 300 copies printed by H. O. Houghton and Co. Cambridge, Mass. USA. Transcriber's note: translations were originally presented on opposing pages from the original. For ease of the reader, they are instead presented here side by side. The notes and index use the numbering system of Guasti, which is not the same numbering system used in the translations. Attempting to link the notes to translations would be prone to error. No such attempt has been made. The index was not checked for proper alphabetization or correct page references. Except for those changes noted below, all misspellings in the text, and inconsistent or archaic usage, have been retained. PG 10, Tuo replaced with Tuesday. PG 90, Giannotti replaced with Giannotti. End of the Project Gutenberg ebook. Sonnets and Madrigals of Michelangelo Buonarroti. Updated editions will replace the previous one. The old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances, and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start, full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works. By using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Trademark Electronic Works. 1.a. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation or PGLOF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying, or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg trademark license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark license. 1.e.6. You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, If you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee, or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7. Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8. You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works provided that, you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark works. 1.e.9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f.1.f.1. Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects, such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2. Limited warranty, disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs, and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive, or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3 Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4 Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5 Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion, and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs, and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark. Project Gutenberg trademark is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers including obsolete, old, middle-aged, and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or Federal Tax Identification Number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, Utah 84116801596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork, and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways including checks, online payments, and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the U.S. unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks. Sonnets and Madrigals of Michelangelo Buonarroti. Contents: Michelangelo as poet. Sonnets, epigrams and madrigals. A selection from the Sonnets of Michelangelo Buonarroti. I 2 3 4 v 6 7 8 9 x 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 x x x x I x x I epigram. I epigrams. I 2 3 madrigal. I madrigals. I 2 3 4 v 6 7 8 9 x 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 XXXXIXXIIXXIIXXIV. Notes on the Sonnets, epigrams and madrigals. Notes on the Sonnets 2 CIIXXIXXXI 18 XXVI XXXV 38 LXLILXII 6. Notes on the epigrams. Notes on the madrigals. 717 Index of first line sonnets, epigrams, madrigals. The full Project Gutenberg license.